The show where anything goes. Motivation, mindset, recovery, philosophy, and life. We become who we are through what we experience. We all have a story, and this is My Backstory with Josh Boyer.
The voice that introduces you just happened.
Yeah, it did. It did. And here we are on the My Backstory podcast with Sean Burrows, part 2. And this is a very different podcast, and it's been a huge adjustment. I think for all of us, but especially for podcasters that had a setup like I did, where I was traveling directly to all of my guests, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do it or if I was going to keep doing it. I was like, man, I don't know. Zoom? Am I going to do a Google Meet, Google Chat, whatever? But enough people hit me up. I was like, you need to keep it going. Like, don't stop. And so just a little.
You put so much into it, man.
Yeah, for sure. And so like when I started the podcast, the foundation was absolutely incredible. Like I was so stoked on it. I put a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of like energy into it. And I made the decision to go back to corporate America for a little bit. And I don't know. I think financially, I'll just be honest, man, and candid with you. Like I had put myself in quite the financial hole building the podcast. I had a lot of ideas of the way I wanted to do things. One of those was I did not want to have, advertisements on my podcast. If it wasn't something I didn't truly believe in or something that I used myself and had got benefit from. So I was like, yeah, I could have got other, maybe some advertisements on my podcast to make a little bit of cash. But I wasn't willing to like sell my soul for it. So I was like, I want to do this salt of the earth. I'm going to just put all my money into it. Hopefully it'll pay off in the end. And you know what, man, financially, maybe it didn't pay off yet. But the relationships and the connections that I've made in the process, to me, in my opinion, are just completely worth it.
Sounds like you're a pro shooter.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean, so that's why I went back. I went back to corporate, and that lasted for 3 months, and I'm just not made for the corporate setting, I don't believe. My wife and I own our own company, and so I was like, I'm going to go work for her, and I'm going to get back to my podcasting. And a lot of things happened. Like COVID started right when I left corporate. I kind of got laid off or asked to go on a mandatory vacation, and so that was cool, So I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah,
I'm out of here. Go take care of my family. Actually, their exact words were, "It seems like you care more for your family than you do for this company. So we're going to allow you to go home and just take care of your family." All right.
That exact thing happened to my wife. Not 3 weeks. Well, I mean, she was able to do most of the work she was doing anyway as an office manager / executive assistant for some, to run a business, you got to have your head in the clouds and feet on the ground, right? Like the in-between stuff has to be done by people you hire, but you got to be pragmatic and have the vision. And these guys were really good at the head in the cloud things. And she was their feet on the ground, and she whipped them into shape. And if they weren't in an industry that was so damn profitable, they would have been screwed a long time ago, long before she came on. And this was a company that a mutual friend of ours, actually from the shooting industry, had kind of left his job and gone over and called me and asked if I thought that if Alicia would be, my wife, would be interested before. I'm like, this isn't some 1950, like, call her, you got her number, shut up. Like, we did. Like, and so yeah, she got hired for a position, and the things that the job that they'd hired her for, she whipped shit into shape in like 6 weeks, and had taken over everything that the general manager was supposed to be doing. So they basically just let him go because he wasn't actually doing his job, and she took over his stuff. Literally one of the guys that interviewed her, right? And because she was raised by 2 business owners. Her mom had an event planning business, and her dad was a tax accountant, right? And so Like, and then she married somebody who's self-employed, and so she doesn't know to like do bare minimum and collect a paycheck. And so, I mean, she's doing 9 to 5, coming home, working her ass off till midnight. She's like, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. I'm like, you realize like you're on salary. Like you need to slow down and like not care after 5 o'clock. So it was a weird adjustment for all of us. But, you know, after 14 years of like being we'd made the decision that we wanted to have kids, and it was important to me that if we were going to have children, that one parent had to stay at home, because I was a latchkey kid and I had a brother and sister, and I didn't want to do the daycare thing. I didn't want to do the coming home from school and not having a parent there, because that's no way to raise children. That's in effect not doing it. That's like, well, we created a human. It's fed.
That's such a juicy topic too, man, because I think that a lot of people, you know, in this day and age, because of the cost of living and with housing and this and that and keeping up with the Joneses, whatever you want to call it, it's almost like you have to have 2 incomes to survive in certain parts of the country, especially California. And my wife and I did the same thing when we got married. Before we got married, we had that discussion. I said, hey, listen, like, if we decide we want to get married and we're going to have kids, like, I do not want a career woman. I mean, she had a very good job. She was working for the Security and Exchange Commission, doing filings for them. And I mean, she had a great job.
Did she have her blue windbreaker?
No, she didn't. No. She was working for a filing company that did filings for the Security and Exchange Commission.
Okay.
So she didn't have to windbreaker.
I used to have some licenses back in the day. Totally.
So yeah, she was. Her office was actually out in Idaho, and but she worked remotely, and it was a cool setup. And when we got together, I said, listen, like, if we're gonna have kids, that job's got to go. You know, like we'll make do, we'll figure it out. I'll work however many hours I need to work and move and shake as much as I need to, but I'm not going to have somebody else raising my kids. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
It takes hustle. And, you know, I got 4 kids, 14, 11, 7, and 4 right now. Yep. And so our youngest started preschool, you know, this fall. And so there was, you know, enough time in the middle of the week that she was just like, I'm ready to get back out there. Like, I just can't, you know, she loves being a mom, just like I love being a dad. But it had just been more than enough time. You know, the discussion about having a 4th kid was just, it was something that she felt strongly enough about. But, you know, when we had number 3, we were in effect done and starting to go down that path. So like 4 years later, like now she's ready. I was ready 4 years previous. Consequently, number 4 is my he's the most like me. He's like he's doing math and reading, and he just turned 4. Like he's
that's awesome.
Smart. Like, people look at him and are like, did he get any of your wife's genes, or was she just a host, right? And, but
surrogate.
Right. And like, he was just a surrogate. Like, I just basically composed my genetic material inside of her. Anyway, so she was ready, right? But she, even more so than me, like, I don't know where she gets these values. Like, her siblings don't have it. Her parents don't have it nearly, not even a 10th of the intensity she does of like, there's a job, we need to do it, you know, 100x of expectations just to make sure, right? Like, that's just how she exists. And she'll put herself in a, like, levels, like combat levels of stress, delivering on something that consequentially, if it's not delivered on, it doesn't matter. The cost benefit analysis of a businessman like me doesn't exist in her universe. It's just, if there's a job and there is a supreme way of doing it, she figures it out. And then if that's here, goes, you know, whatever 100 times that is. And so she was in there. And anyway, fast forward to 3 weeks ago, you know, she's working from home, and then, you know, like, these guys, I don't know, they're more into themselves. They're into the cheapest labor possible. It's very common in Utah companies. Like, as a marketing professional, like, I don't work usually with Utah companies. You know, the only reason we were working with this company, they were an absolute mess internally, from OSHA standards to everything else. And anyway, like she helped straighten out all this stuff. Like they had a lot of what should have been commercial insurance on one of the owner's personal insurance policies. Like the whole, everything you could do wrong, they were doing wrong, but they were so profitable because of the market they were in. Like any idiot with the right startup capital and like 20% of the know-how could make a profit in this business. But some of the components they're getting, like, anyway, long story short, like things started slowing down because of COVID, but mostly because of supply chain from China. Like it was just stopping, right?
Yep.
Not because of like shelter in place orders. And but you know, it was up in Salt Lake, and she was we live in the county south, Utah County, and so she was working from home because it wasn't necessary to go up to Salt Lake. Salt Lake County had shelter in place, you know, moderate orders, nothing like Nevada or California, and Utah County didn't. So, you know, restaurants are closed, but that's about it. You can still get your hair cut. Anyway, she got a call, or she actually offered, because we didn't need this, right? Unfortunately, these guys became a marketing client, you know, because I want to help out my wife's employer. If they're doing well, she's doing well, we'll ultimately do well. And then, you know, they just start slowing down. These guys literally don't give a fuck unless they're making money to feed their lifestyle. The company's not their goal. It's them, right? The owners. And our friend had kind of like fallen into that vibe to the point where he wasn't a friend anymore. Our mutual acquaintances hadn't heard from him in forever, and he changed. Like he hitched his wagon. Like he got dollar signs in his eyes. It's interesting how the potential of profits someday cashing in maybe can change people. You know, how money's a magnifying glass. Like how about the promise of maybe money someday changing people? I've never seen that before. I've had business partners go off the rails because they started making cash. But like this was interesting. So anyway, Alicia had gone to one of the owners, not her friend, and said, look, you know, we don't absolutely need this stuff, but you know, if you need me to like work for like half paycheck or whatever, like I'll take a pay cut. You know, we'd hitched our benefits to this wagon. We didn't need any of it, but like, all right, if Alicia's going to get a W-2 job, like instead of paying for private insurance, shit, why not, right? It's been great. Anyway, and the owner's like, nah, we'll be fine. That was a month previous. And then she gets a call. Not from them, but from our friend, right? Hey, would you mind working for like half the salary for indefinitely until shit starts coming around? She's like, I guess. That was at like 10 o'clock at night. By 10 the next morning, she was laid off. And it was like no phone call, no, nothing. It was just like, and then that night our friend posted on their Instagram story. Now this friend was brought on to help bring on a sub company, like a startup that actually wasn't profitable. It's just been living off the teat of the main parent company.
Yep.
I mean, they haven't sold a damn thing. They haven't made a red cent, and posted a picture of a beautiful sunset saying like, it's been a great week, some fat and made some sales. Ever, like, really, you laid off a friend and like other labor. Like it was sad. Like it's been interesting to watch how COVID has, I wasn't expecting to open this episode like this, but like, it's interesting to watch how this has really, like, it's brought out a lot of genuine human behaviors in general, right?
Totally.
Extreme circumstances tend to do that though. And that's my point. Like, I ended our last episode. I haven't listened to it. I never listened to it, but I remember the conversation very well. I ended the last episode, talking about how, humans are the only ones that place value in anything, and remembering that humans are the only true asset. And that's a value that I hold very deeply. That's one of the only real values that I have left after, sifting through all the stuff that I was raised with and comparing it to my experience and what matters most to me. And I'll tell you, like, man, if that guy makes it through, with these partners and he makes anything, to quote Dr. Phil, if they'll do it with you, they'll do it to you. And he's going to be on the chopping block too, because those main guys, his partners who own a lot more of that asset, whatever the hell it is, he's going to get cut too someday. And like, man, you treat people like that. If you value people more than things, that's putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, to quote my grandparents. Geez.
Right.
It's just backwards. It's ass backwards, and you're just going to get in trouble that way.
Yeah. No, that's funny, because when I went back to corporate, I went with that mentality that people come first. Profit is always a byproduct of doing the right thing. It's always a byproduct of treating your customers right, treating your employees right. Like, the profit will come. It's just the way it works. If you create
value, dollars follow. Dollars are a representation of value.
Right. So I went there with that mentality, and I was directly told by the owner, like, hey, stop worrying about trying to fix the morale here. Don't worry about the morale here, because I was trying to do barbecues on Fridays, just trying to get people like, let's make this a cohesive team. Let's, like, we're all on the same page. And, like, when we're all happy, we're just more productive, things are good.
My wife was hired literally to change company culture. And then they said, just work at home. That was one of the main things they wanted her for. And
it's crazy, dude.
And she was like making lunch for all of the labor, and they fucking loved her. Like, those guys counted on that. And then some of the management from one of the locations sent out an email without even talking to her. Jury cutbacks, we were providing, like, these guys lavish themselves so much shit. And like it costs less than $150 to feed fucking 24 people if you do it right. And she was doing it right. Like, that's one thing Alicia does really well, is she can put on events that people think cost tens of thousands for hundreds of dollars. And her mom was an event planner. Like, she knows how to do that. She's put on elaborate birthday parties for our kids. Like, you look on Instagram, it's better than Twitter stuff. Her personal stuff, you'll never see on her public stuff. And it's all shooting. But, like, man, like, they threw the baby out and kept the damn bathwater.
No, it'll come around though. It usually does, and that's why, like, when I got laid off or was asked to take a mandatory unwanted vacation, I wasn't even upset about it. Because it's like, when you think about it, it's like, I didn't need the money. It wasn't like it was helpful, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to be able to survive. I can't feed my kids if I don't have it.
Well, so you took the job to dig yourself out of a hole, not to make ends meet, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Exactly. So it wasn't like I was still able to pay my bills, but I was like, I want to, like, dig out of some of this, like, debt that I put myself on building the podcast.
You're in a comfortable hole. You just wanted to see some sunshine.
Yeah. So, when I left, and I made it clear to the owners too, I said, listen, like, I'm here because I want to be here. Like, I don't have to be here. And that's not the case with a lot of employees, like, and maybe they didn't want to hear that, but it was the truth, and unfortunately we parted ways, and I think they were waiting for me to file for my unemployment. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to file unemployment. I'm okay. So I'm just doing my thing, man. It actually, I think Steve Jobs, probably said it best, man. You connect the dots looking back, and so it's like, if this would have happened, then I wouldn't be where I am today. And, like, I use the tragedy that, I'm sure you've heard of it. What happened last week with Roy Hamill. I don't know if you know who he is, but he was a Marine.
Skywalker's brother? That was probably, since it was a
terrible joke. Yeah, no. Bad timing. But it's all good. Too soon. He was a Marine that got his leg blown up in Afghanistan, and while he was there, got his leg blown off. He comes home, and obviously he's fighting with a lot of demons, PTSD and what have you.
Shit.
And he went around and basically, started these foundations, and was like, he made it his life's mission to help other veterans dealing with PTSD, to prevent suicides. I mean, to, like, talk people off of the ledge. He shared his own story of wanting to take his own life. And he's episode 12 on the podcast. And so I drove out to New Jersey. I met him. He was on the podcast. An amazing guy, and just made his life. Every time you're around it, like when I was around him, it's like you just feel welcomed. You know, he's just like met you with a smile and things like this, and contagious laugh, all the above. What's that?
And his own shit got to him, huh?
Yeah. So he took his own life on I think it was on Thursday of last week, and we were all heartbroken. I mean, everyone that knew him was like, "Oh my God." And and I promised, like to myself, to him, I was like, dude, I will always share your story. I'll carry the torch. And so getting this podcast going, it's like, it's imperative that I do it now. It's like, I need to do it. Even if it's not always talking about like mental health and how important it is, but even talking about the things we're talking about right now with like COVID and how it affects your family, how it affects your wife and things like that. It's like, these are all topics that we need to talk about, people need to hear about, because maybe you're not as affected by Alicia being laid off unceremoniously. But
tremendously affected. We wouldn't have been if we hadn't hitched our wagons to our friend's startup, but that's the way we are. It's a loyalty thing. We're loyal to our friends, and he said, we need you. Like, I was brought in and I was offering my expertise at, a fifth of my fee and bringing my team on. And I wouldn't get calls back from this guy for a month. And he's supposed to be doing marketing stuff for them as a partner.
Right.
And so he's getting like a quarter of the value of what I'm supposed to be doing because I can't get a damn call back because they're having a weekend in Vegas because MDMA, because whatever. Like it's ridiculous. He was brought on to offset like their shortcomings as a partner, and instead he's conforming to be cool. I'm not naming names because I'm heartbroken that I lost a friend. This is somebody that honestly I've had long conversations with. I spent a lot of time with. He was a contact for a company I still work with that sponsors and supports Alicia and I. He was a true friend. In fact, he's still friends with people that we both know because he hasn't hurt them.
Right.
But this was a deep cutting thing, and it's hard to process, right?
So what's your take now? Like looking back, like hindsight's always 20/20, right? So it's like looking back at what you experienced, like, do you think it's a bad move to go into business with friends? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people say, like, "Oh, don't ever do it."
Where I talked about my best friend and business partner fucking me over to the point where I had to put him in federal prison, and I went from being worth millions in my mid-20s to having to work on being able to afford a diaper. I mean, go back and listen to the episode. I don't know what number I am, but I'll tell you. You said Mr. Hamill ending his life was a tragedy. We're the ones that put a story to circumstances, events, decisions. There's something about the human condition that makes us have to turn every goddamn thing into a story. Like, shit falls out of the sky, and one person can say, like, oh, there must be a lesson I have to learn, and another person says, no way. What are the odds, right? And then there's a spectrum of like interpretation in between those two things. And like, what's the universe trying to tell me, man? Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know why we're wired that way. And it's probably somewhere in that whole spectrum of atheism versus theism, right? Like, is there a God versus isn't there a God? It's part of our wiring, and I'm fascinated with the idea, right? I had a Mormon upbringing, and I was a Mormon missionary in Las Vegas, right? Like,
of all places.
While I grew up in Alaska, and I was a Mormon in Las Vegas, right? So, and I'll tell you, all I know is I made a decision because I wanted to do it in this particular circumstance. I felt like it was the best thing to do. I felt like it. I thought it. Logic and emotion aligned to whatever degree that I decided that I was going to hit some sort of target.
Yeah.
Maybe I thought it was in Alicia's best interest, and so I went along with it. Maybe I thought it was in my family's best interest, so we went along with it. Whatever the case, we didn't see any of this coming. We didn't see the Wu flu coming around the Pacific, right?
Yeah, nobody did.
Or maybe it came over the Atlantic from Italy. We don't know. Man, I will say, we decide what's a tragedy. We decide that the outcomes from our decisions are good or bad. Learning opportunity. Obviously, the definite permanence of ending one's own life for that individual is devastatingly permanent and irreversibly there have been too many in my own life that's sensitive, and I regret my my Skywalker comment, but I didn't pick up on the clue with the word tragedy you used when you opened up that conversation topic. But I will say this: he sealed his life's work with his life.
Yeah.
And it's up to anyone, any damn person, any single individual that was touched by Mr. Hamill to pick up that torch and carry it as far as they can, to the degree that they've been touched, if they care one iota about how much they were touched by him. Because, I mean, let's face it, death is inevitable. We may have some grip on the dial of when, but not always.
Yeah.
And so, and unfortunately, or fortunately, we decide if that's the condition of it.
That's crazy, because I think this COVID stuff, it's not just the virus, dude. That's the problem. You know what I mean? I think you see a lot of people that were being forced, to stay in place, shelter in place, whatever you want to call it.
The conditions it's created have arguably in some isolated areas, some geos, some time frames, the cure has been worse than the cause. Yep.
What are your thoughts on all of it? I mean, are you on the fence of, are you on the side of, because there's definitely, I think it's multifaceted. You have some people that are like, hey, listen, this is definitely something to take very seriously. Shelter in place, don't go anywhere, wear your mask, this, that, whatever. Then you have the other side of it.
Have you read the Stanford study?
That about what, like the R naught and all the other stuff and how contagious it is. And I don't remember. There's been a couple that I've read, but I don't know if it's a Stanford study. So.
The antibody study with the big enough sample size they've had about how many people have actually had it.
No, I haven't read it yet. How many?
So obviously it's a study, and in order to be conclusively valid in the empirical community, it needs to be replicated in meta-analysis by other studies. But Stanford's a reputable organization, so I'm going to go with that over CCP propaganda that it came from a bat soup in a marketplace.
Right.
That essentially, the layperson conclusion is that way more people have had this virus and recovered from it than any of us could have ever possibly understood until we started doing antibody studies on people.
Right.
One of my wife's best friends in Southern California, they went to a concert. Her husband got deathly ill. She didn't feel a damn thing.
Yeah.
It was COVID. He was tested. She was tested. They hunkered down for 4 weeks, I guess. Literally quarantined themselves. Didn't leave the house. Had shit delivered. Let it sit in their little mud room for 5 hours before they brought it in the house. Sprayed everything with Lysol, whether it was going to kill them or not, kind of stuff. She would have been a vector otherwise, as they call it, right? You have the virus pass through you, but you don't get symptomatic.
Asymptomatic, you're spreading it around. Yep.
Right. So, anyway, if you look at that versus, and then you look at the death rates in countries like European countries specifically that have really low birth rates and really high populations of elderly folks like Italy, the Netherlands, Denmark, those places where comorbidity with the other factors like high smoking rates, age, obesity, heart conditions, those sorts of things. And, you talk to any doctor that understands this, you don't die from the flu. You die from a combination of things.
Right.
So people don't die from COVID. You die from a combination of things, COVID being one of the common variables. And so the media, of course, is saying, we've had this many people die from COVID. Well, they died and they had the coronavirus, right? COVID-19.
Yep.
But, how many were smokers? How many were fat ass old people? How many were, and on and on and on and on. And I don't mean to make light of it. Like fat ass old people have hearts and families and values.
No, I get it though. It seems like, but it's sad though, because you put these numbers out there that, it's so deadly and all these people are dying and like blah, blah, blah. They're not telling you the whole story though a lot of the times.
Well, you combine politics, there's no debating that there have been massive attempts and some successful jabs at power grabbing by governors and other politicians.
Yeah. Well, didn't they change the number? The CDC changed the number. Yeah, my lovely.
They dropped the number to 36,000-ish. Like, sorry, only this many people died from COVID-19. Those other people were, I think they had P pneumonia or some shit like that. Sorry, never mind.
Did you have any anxiety though when, because I know when this whole shit came out, and I mean we started hearing about it. I think in December, I started hearing about it. That it was in China, blah blah blah. I don't really, proximity didn't really bother. I wasn't really thinking too much about it.
Corona beer is going to lose sales. And
right. So I know that when it finally hit here and there was a national emergency, or Trump declared a national emergency, I had a lot of anxiety about it, man. I'm not going to lie, dude. I think part of it was I can't get taken out, dude. Like I can't get sick. And some people are getting are asymptomatic. They don't even know they have it. There's other people that are perfectly healthy and they're laid up for however long. They might not die, but they're laid up for quite a while. And your family can't even come to the hospital to see you. And I was like, dude, I can't let that happen to me. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of anxiety because of my, I have 4 boys and I got my wife, and it's I need to find a way to find that balance of I don't want fear to dictate my life, but I want to be safe at the same time,
Say that because I was already in high anxiety because my wife and I jumped from our title sponsor at the end of last summer. We left HK and we're working with different companies now, and we were worried about our shit showing up in time for the new shooting season. Now, at the end of SHOT Show 2018, so SHOT Show, for the listeners that don't know, is the biggest. It's the shooting, hunting, outdoor trade show put on by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the NSSF, in Las Vegas at the Sands Expo Center, the same place where the big consumer electronics show, CES, is put on. Literally 14 miles of booths. If you were to just walk by every single booth just to look at them, you would walk for 14 miles.
Yeah.
So I think year after next, they're splitting it between 2 buildings. It's going to be insane. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we just have to work booths all day anyway. We can't see it all. But 2 years ago, she got influenza A. And if you remember 2 years ago, it had hit epidemic levels. There was a 12-year-old boy in Vegas that died of influenza A.
Yeah.
And we're both convinced that we're in a meeting with, and I won't say the company because I don't want to tarnish their name, but she grabbed the wrong water bottle. Like they give out water bottles, and there was a water bottle on the little coffee table, massive booth, one of our big sponsors. And we had this meeting in the back room. And she sat hers down, I sat mine down, and the orientation was great, but for whatever reason, we were having this really exciting conversation because our sponsors are great, and they're talking about everything they want to do with us in the coming year. And this guy is just so forward-thinking and such a good company. And she's excited, and she reaches forward and grabs the wrong water bottle, and she drinks. She's like, "Oh, this is warm," and she puts it down. We both think from that incident right there, because we were sanitizing, we weren't shaking anybody's hands, because you just don't do that at trade shows, right? Like
it's like you get the SHOT Show flu, right?
They call it the SHOT Show crud, the SHOT Show, they call it all sorts of things, but the SHOT Show shit, the shit show, you went from SHOT Show to shit show, all sorts of stuff. But in fact, autocorrect on my phone some years has, every time I've tried to type SHOT Show, it'll go to shit show. But most years when I'm texting friends like, "Oh man, that was a shit show," it'll type SHOT Show. So
right.
Whatever. But I've changed my vocabulary to dumpster fire, frankly. She was literally, she got influenza A, then she got influenza B, turned into pneumonia. She was literally in quarantine in our bedroom. I slept downstairs in our guest room. Kids didn't see their mommy after we were gone for 10 days because we show up to SHOT Show. SHOT Show goes Monday through Friday, really, but and then we shoot a match on Saturday, drive back Sunday. We were going to shoot, there's a multi-gun match that Saturday and then a pistol match that Sunday. We were going to shoot both, but she basically collapsed after her last shot of the last stage that Saturday. So I drove home, and I had to she fell asleep, and I had to pull my truck over every so often to make sure she was still breathing. I was that paranoid. She digressed that quickly. And so this was SHOT Show 2018, January-ish, right? It's always the third week of January. So, I mean, she literally hasn't gotten sick since. I mean, nothing. She doesn't get flu shots. She doesn't get anything. She's just she does her CBD oil, not the same stuff from that guy we both know, but other stuff.
Thankfully.
I still have his helmet, by the way.
Do you really?
Yeah. I'll show it to you. It's around the corner.
Nah, dude. Has he asked?
No, I've had it for a year.
Dude, that's so weird.
I don't think it's real. I still have it.
I mean, he said it was worth $250,000.
I should probably sell it, man. You haven't called. It's not. There's no way it's real.
Well, I heard he actually moved out here. I don't think he lives there anymore. I don't know if that's true or accurate. I mean, I just kind of word of mouth, people talking, but I haven't talked to that guy or seen him or anything since all that stuff went down. So.
Well, I have a $250,000 helmet sitting in a fucking closet. Probably never going to see $250,000 out of that damn thing because I sell something that doesn't belong to me. But he's never asked for it back.
Yeah,
I'm not keeping it in a safe anymore because, after a year of someone not asking for something that's worth $250,000 back. Anyway, sorry to digress. But did we get paranoid? My question, So after SHOT Show this year, we've both gotten the SHOT Show crud. She's had influenza A. We've learned our lessons. We've been in the shooting scene. We've gone to trade shows. We've gone to TriggerCon. We've gone to NRA show. We got a SHOT Show every year because it's just Vegas. It's a 5.5 hour drive from here. I had this thing that lasted about 2 weeks after SHOT Show. Alicia didn't get anything.
Yeah.
Nothing. I had a hard time breathing. I had this dry cough. But it was the last week of January, first week of February. We didn't hear anything about symptoms. Nothing. And then you start hearing about it like mid to late February, like, I think I had that. My kids all had it. They were all coughing. Like, damn, all my kids are coughing. But it wasn't anything so bad. Like, like I had a little fever. My kids had a little fever. Like, we weren't going anywhere. Like, I kept my kids home from school a couple of days, but like, whatever, go to school. Stop faking it. Like, we were all functional, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't go into my office. Like, well, that's what we did last interview. Like, I worked from home for a week or two, week and a half. It's weird in January. January is kind of my month, my slow month, because like with marketing, digital marketing, it's all like go through the holidays, and then January is like reset for everyone. All right, let's get ready for our campaigns in quarter two. Quarter one's sort of like, I mean, we got stuff going on, but it's nothing like the fourth quarter. So,
right.
We're just like, whatever. I'm working from home. My team's all remote anyway. All my employees, my partners, whatever. So, like, hey guys, I'm not going to make this meeting. Partner, can you handle it? Whatever. And I have got anxiety about like, is my stuff going to be? I'm holding my new custom pistol, right? Like, this was supposed to be done first week of December.
Right.
Stuff got changed. Stuff got moved around. I literally haven't had this for a week. Funny enough, it's got a special coating on it. It's not a black metal pistol. It's a like a black nickel sort of thing.
What kind of weapon is that? Is that Archeon?
What's that?
What kind of pistol is that?
This is an Atlas Gunworks Hyperion.
Nice.
It's a double stack, high capacity 1911. It is designed specifically for 3-gun.
Yeah.
It's the only high capacity 1911 designed around the 9mm cartridge.
Wow.
It's a race gun. It's a competition gun.
Yeah.
Look at this trigger press. I'll just show you. Oh, safety. All right.
Wow.
And then the reset is insane. Pound and a half. But it's actually, I don't know how familiar or savvy you are with 1911s.
Not that savvy.
Government length, which is a 5-inch full size, the biggest size that they made, the first size. Government length stroke. But basically what they did was they cut it down to 4.6 inches. So they basically chopped it all off. So it's got the full length spring, and then it's got a super light aluminum handle. And what it does is it has this perfect return to zero. So you get one sight picture. Do you know what a bill drill is?
I do.
Invented by Bill Wilson. You'll be familiar with Wilson Combat. So in competition, kind of the standard is being able to, from the draw, hands relaxed at sides, from the alarm, being able to put 6 rounds in a target 7 yards away in under 2 seconds. 6-inch group.
Nice.
Okay. It's a measurement of your ability to manage recoil and control your trigger press, right? So with this, literally the timing with any basic fundamentals, any fool, you would be able to, at least with holding it out in front of you on, if you had a sub-second draw, right, that's half your bill drill. So from an alarm, if you have the gun out in front of you already, you should be able to do a bill drill, or at least the shooting half of the bill drill in 1 second, and land a 6-inch group at 7 yards with one sight picture,
right?
Without thinking about it. It recoils and it comes back, and it's meant to be light, but a full metal gun. And it's got that perfect balance. It's got a perfect recoil spring. So my wife and I both had one built for us. Atlas Gunworks has a kind of a semi-custom thing where they have a model designed for every single division in competition shooting. They've IDPA, USPSA, 3-gun. So they've got their open division guns. They've got their limited division, single stack, tactical optics. Anyway, on and on and on. So this is the division that my wife and I both shoot. So my wife has a much shorter trigger because she's much smaller than me. I have a more robust grip because I'm, 6'4" and 230 pounds. So I actually have a lighter recoil spring. I have a 7-pound recoil spring in mine. She has a 9-pound recoil spring in hers. Just little things like that, right? She's got a smaller grip. She has a brass magwell, so that muzzle flip is mitigated, but it comes back down a lot faster. For me, when I was doing double taps, my second tap was like 10 inches low at 10 yards. So I needed a lighter spring because I have a really robust grip. I'm just used to shooting plastic guns for.
With you guys doing the competitions and stuff like that, like what are you trying to get out of it? Is it because you like the competition? You like the push? You like the drive? Is it the sponsorship? Is it the money behind it? The accolades? What is it that like keeps you competing? And the reason I ask this question is I see a guy like you that like knows the nomenclature of weapons like the back of your hand. I watch all your videos and like how fast you can take weapons apart, put them back together, reload them, do that. And like it's just like the speed, this accuracy, these drills. Like, do you ever feel like maybe you and Alicia would be better suited starting your own company, just doing training? Like that's what you do for a living? Like that's your whole entire
I teach people. I have a couple dozen online students.
But have you ever wanted to do it, like make that your bread and butter, like where it's like, why? Is there just too many, is this too saturated, you think, or what?
Oh, it's not too saturated. I could dominate if I wanted to.
Why don't you
I'm better explaining shit than most teachers.
So what keeps you from doing it? Just out of curiosity.
My patience with people. I only like teaching people that approach like 25% of my passion level for the same thing.
Right.
If I have to motivate you to be passionate about this, like forget it. Like I don't want to talk to you.
Well, if you're putting your price point right at a certain level where it's like you're going to be catering to people who are at least that passionate, because they're not going to put that much money into a class if they're not passionate about it, right? I'm not going to spend $700 to $1,000 come out for a weekend with you and shoot if I didn't really care, if I wasn't passionate about shooting.
Well, that's a really good point. So here are a couple of things. One, I do like teaching. I like helping spread the good word, as it were, the God spell, or the old English translation of that would be gospel of shooting, right? But I have a friend. His name's Mike Johnston. Okay, He's literally the best digital online music teacher the world's ever seen. Teaches drums. Drumming was my first passion, really. Mike'sLessons.com. Check it out. If you want to learn drums, Mike'sLessons.com. Seriously, Mike Johnston is the man. And he's probably the most passionate person and one of the best teachers about that subject. And I don't think drums just happen to be what he landed on. If it was a guitar or harp or piano or shooting or clog dancing, it doesn't really matter. It just so happens that drums is what he landed on.
Right.
He and I think a lot alike. I found his stuff early on in like 2006, and he put a YouTube video up, and he started selling like lessons at like $199 on his website, like iTunes. Like you buy a $5 or 5-minute lesson for $2.
Yeah.
It's like how to play the samba, how to play the samba, how to play a basic rock beat, how to do drum fills from beginning to intermediate to advanced, and his shit just exploded. So then he started doing live lessons. Monday night was beginnings, Wednesday night was intermediate, Thursday night was advanced, and then Saturday night he would review a student's homework videos that anyone that sent in, he'd have weekly homework. He'd have like a challenge, basically. Anyone, beginning, intermediate, or advanced, and he'd give feedback. Like it'd just be like a 30-second thing, play a couple bars of whatever. And he built this community.
Yeah.
Well, he was a pro level drummer. He came up in the new metal scene, late 90s, early 2000s. Played for a band called Simon Says. You remember them?
It sounds familiar, but who were they? Did they have any like acts that they were like teamed up with or no?
Yeah. They came up with like Limp Bizkit and Cake and oh my gosh, what's the band escapes me? Around the Fur, My Own Summer. Abe Cunningham was their drummer. Deftones.
Yep.
Northern California new metal scene.
Yeah.
And, Cake was mixed in there. Like they were all in the same like Northern California, Sacramento area.
Yeah.
Stuff. And anyway, do you know what he liked the most? Teaching. Yeah. Not playing in front of 20,000 people. Right. Me, when I was a pro drummer, which didn't even approach that, I like playing in front of 1,000 people, 5,000 people.
Right.
I hated being in the studio. I taught a few lessons because like, oh yeah, you want to learn? Let me show you a few things. Because you get a little bit of a buzz out of it, but not consistently. Mike actually loves teaching more than any kind of rush you get on stage, which is a very special thing. Me, I like helping people. I've helped a number of really high-profile influencer, trainer, shooter people that you would recognize that I don't have permission to name, and it's always been under kind of stuff. Shoot. Yeah. Hell, I helped an A-list celeb learn how to shoot 3-gun last week while he was here in Utah recording his new album, right? Like, I'm not allowed to say anything.
Keanu?
I'm not going to be – what's that?
Was it Keanu Reeves?
Hell no. I'm not gonna try to even mix my name with anyone that's even close to the edge of the precious, if you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
But and I'm not gonna act like that, right? Like I don't want to be the guy that's taught people how to shoot fake guns on the big screen. Nah, like I've never taught a movie star. How's that? If people want to shoot real guns with real bullets in a real situation like competition, cool. People want to learn how to really shoot because they want to defend themselves or they want to get better with a gun, whatever. I'm not a tactical guy. I'm a civilian. I've never served. I've never been a law enforcement officer, but I can help you, shoot faster and get on target.
Well, with that being said, do you hear that echo or is it just me? I hear an echo. I don't know.
Should I turn down my?
I don't know.
Is that better?
Yeah, I don't hear it now. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. With most military special operations communities, they're going out and taking classes, like shooting classes they go to while they're going through a pipeline or whatever, or a workup before deployment. They're not going to other military schools to do those shooting classes. Most of the shooting classes they're going to are taught by civilians. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people are like, oh, well, they figure you're just going to some special secret ops, class or whatever for shooting taught by military members. Is there classes that exist like that? Yeah, sure. But the majority of the classes that a lot of the guys that I talk to that are tier 1 guys, a lot of them are going to classes that are taught by civilians. And it's in no way to knock like the expertise that's out there in the military communities, but it's a way to show that like you have a lot of worth and a lot of value to bring to the community, there's military members that would go to you and want to learn, you know what I mean? There's a lot of them that don't. Their egos are pretty big, but
so that's really interesting, right? Like, so then there's the instructor ego, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm not naming names by any means, but there's the instructor egos. They're the known guys.
Right.
When I was in college studying music, I had a professor come up to me and says, Sean, what's your goal? Because I first 3 semesters of college, I majored in music. I had a scholarship paying for everything. Why wouldn't I major in music, right? And I told him, I want to do this. He's like, well, you're on the wrong damn track because you're getting really good, but, best thing you can do with a degree in music is become a music teacher. Maybe you'll get a couple gigs, but you need to be out there playing. Yeah. I said, what do you mean? He said, no one's going to be holding job interviews for a big act when you graduate. You're going to be teaching a 4th grade elementary school beginning band for $25,000 a year if you graduate in this degree program.
Nice.
Do you know how I got this job? I played on the road. I was a working musician. I have a degree, but that's how I became a professor. I have a bachelor's degree, and you can call me Dr. So-and-so, but it's honorary. The dude had a long resume playing big band jazz, valve trombone. Doesn't matter. I'm like, okay. And he said to me this, if you want to be good, practice. If you want to be famous and marketable, advertise.
Right.
He's like, and then this was the kicker. And then this, because I started going like this, dichotomy. For you listeners at home, I'm pulling my fingers apart because I thought I had to choose one or the other. He said, you can do both, but not everyone can be Prince. A lot of people don't know it. Prince could play like 20 different musical instruments.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he was still a pop artist, right? But he's a pop artist that wrote his own shit. He was a pop artist that played most of the instruments on the albums that he recorded. He didn't hire a bunch of studio musicians.
Yeah.
He also produced most of his own stuff. Like he could do most of that. If he had a MacBook Pro in our day, right, like he wouldn't need anybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when it comes to instruction, and then I'll come back to what motivates us. Man, the known instructors aren't the best instructors. I know guys, some of them are my teammates. They're good. They're not the best. You want to learn from the best? I was talking about this with my wife on our run tonight. She was talking about how she'd wish she'd done more because she's a very accomplished ballet dancer and she was a semi-professional swing dancer. And that's why she's so damn good at movement in 3.
I saw you guys dancing one night, and I was like, "Whoa, you guys tore it up."
I learned to dance so I could. You need to have her on the podcast, man.
Oh, for sure.
But she learned. One of the hardest things for 3-gunners or pistol shooters to learn is movement. Like they can learn how to shoot accurately and target transitions and fast reloads, weapons manipulations, but like learning how to move and slow down and count steps as they get into a position and exit quickly, like that's the shit she has figured out. Right. And then like everything else has caught up, right? Like learning how to shoot was like, oh, okay. And now she's just like unstoppable. But anyway, instructors, like when people take lessons from me, I'm happy to get anyone started. I charge my fee because my time's worth something. I've invested stuff, but I don't portray myself as the best. I'm not a world champion. I'm not a national champion. I'm an upper mid-pack finisher. I'm sponsored by Federal Premium, Vortex Optics, Safariland, B&T, Atlas Gunworks, some of the best damn companies in the world.
Right.
I've been sponsored by others. I couldn't be more blessed, but that's for a lot of reasons. I bring value to those companies, but I'll tell you, the best shooters don't have the best sponsors. They just win everything.
Yeah.
But this is a sport where there are no bleachers, man. There's no ESPN coverage. Why? Because we're shooting guns with bullets. These are the same things that are designed to kill people. politicians have their big fat thumb on this sport,
Right.
on all the action shooting sports and the non-action shooting sports, and on hunting, and on even being able to own any of the shit that we use to do this. And so, I mean, I'll tell you, the best shooter in the world was set up to be a Major League Baseball pitcher. And then politics got in the way, and that didn't happen. And then he got a warehouse job, but then he discovered 3-gun. And for some reason, he's genetically predisposed to see faster than anybody. He can see a whole array of targets, and he shoots like a bat out of hell. He's also the nicest guy on the planet, and you don't see an ounce of ego after he wipes the entire range with everyone's body. He beats everyone by 5%, 8%, 10% in any division. And he division hops all the time. He shoots a single stack as fast as he shoots an open race gun with a compensator and a red dot. He's just he's incredible. Like he won the 2018 IPSC World Shotgun Shoot-Off with a Vepr 12-gauge open shotgun when 3 months previous he'd never shot one before. I was with him at the range the first time he put a round through it because I was the second guy to put a round through that damn shotgun.
Right.
And then 3 months later, June of 2018, he was flying to Europe to shoot it on the world stage. It's just, I get to rub shoulders with some of the most accomplished names that will probably never be remembered by the world.
Yeah.
And, but they're happy to show anybody what they've figured out.
What's your motivation then? Like your motivations are what? Like if it's just doing competitions and going and linking up and shooting with some of the best shooters in the world, is that your motivation? I mean, what's the end game there for you?
My initial motivation was a couple of things. Like I said in my last podcast, I'd recovered from a huge financial setback from a dishonest business partner, right? And then after that, I'd gotten back in shape because I put everything else aside to like hustle basically. And I went from being a fat ass to being back in shape. And I needed another motivation, something, an activity. Stupid me couldn't pick up like community YMCA basketball or something.
Co-ed softball.
Right. Church league softball.
Yeah.
So I had, since we got a house, I picked drumming back up and I bought a really nice drum kit, like African Babinga gold inlay, black nickel hardware, double bass drums, like all the shit that I couldn't play in gigs when I was trying to be a pro drummer. Yeah. And I was, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like doing my passion for a living. Man, it was lonely. And it was unathletic. What do I do after sitting on my ass all day staring at a computer? What's my outlet? Go home, sit on my ass behind a drum kit. And it was a workout. I was playing like death metal stuff, double bass stuff, really fast, like Slayer and Soilwork and all sorts of other things that would make the Mormons around here cover their ears and pray harder. But I just... It was lonely. I'd come downstairs and I'd be excited that I had achieved, like 5 beats per minute faster and being able to play something, reaching my goal and some little personal achievement I'd set for myself.
Yeah.
And I'd say, "Hey, did you hear that?" And my wife, doing something with the kids, like, "Nope." Not that my drums weren't rattling the whole damn house, but like she's just dealing with it. Like, well, Daddy's home and he's taking his personal time to blow off the steam from the day before he spends time with family.
Right.
What kind of life is that? That's the same middle-aged asshole that comes home and watches TV and hugs his kids goodnight, and then all of a sudden he's 70 years old and his daughter's married with 3 kids, and then he dies of a heart attack because he ate Cheese Whiz every night watching fucking Miami Vice. And I'm like, I caught myself. It's just a couple of years of that, but that's a couple of years I can't get back. Not that I was wasting it. It was personal development, and I was setting goals. I wasn't watching TV doing nothing, but I needed to apply the skill of knowing how to teach myself how to develop neural pathways to something a bit more social, a bit more intrinsically rewarding as far as my actual life, my kids, my wife, hell, maybe make a friend outside of business.
Yeah.
And so, I tried to go shoot a match. And, sorry to do this. I have to pee really bad.
No, it's all good, dude.
Let
me see if I can.
Just 1 second. I'll be back in like 10 seconds.
All right.
So I found a match. I shot it with a really well-known guy that trains a lot of celebrities out of Simi Valley.
Yeah.
I don't care to ever have my name associated with that asshole, so I'm not going to name him. But I shot my first match with him. He was somebody who employed actually a client of mine who I was doing some online reputation cleanup for.
Right.
That's how I met him. And that it was a US PSA pistol match, and I shot my HKP 30 carry gun. And then I was hooked after that. I quickly learned about this sport called 3-gun. I'm like, well, if I had fun doing it with a pistol, hell, throw a rifle and a shotgun into it. And then I found a local guy named Andy Peterson, who was the 2013 3-Gun Nation Club Series champion. So he was on the since he was their Club Series champion, he made it onto the 3-Gun Nation Pro Series, and it's about as close as 3-Guns ever had to a pro card, like in the NBA. So I hired a pro to train me, and I literally trained 3-Gun. I was shooting USPSA matches just to keep practicing, but 3-Gun was my goal. And I trained with him for like 9 months before I shot my first 3-gun match. Learned how to shoot a shotgun. We'd go out every Thursday. And I'd dry fire every night, give me drills, give me homework. And because I understood the importance of building correct neural pathways, or as the layperson would call muscle memory, right?
Yep. I
had retrained bad drumming habits before, since drumming is such a physical activity, even though you're sitting on your ass, and relearning. And I understood developing appropriate, correct economy of motion. And so I wanted to learn it right. I didn't want to have to unlearn something because it's 10 times as much work. Well, scientists say 7 times as much work. So undoing a bad habit and creating a new one. And so that's where I started, and I documented my whole journey. And it was just as Instagram was taking off. And so as I documented it, the sponsors kind of came, frankly, before I shot my first 3-gun match. I shot pistol matches, but not 3-gun matches. And 3-gun was my aim. And so what's my motivation? It's the journey towards personal improvement. It's something beyond just like, you should be healthy because you're going to get older, to stay physically fit. Like, looking good and feeling good doesn't matter to me. There are quick shortcuts to feeling good. We all know that.
Right.
I know your backstory. There are, and looking good. I don't care. So I I want to be able to run fast. I want to be able to shoot accurately. I want to be able to see. I want to be able to think clearly. And why? So I can hit targets.
Yeah.
Why? So I can explain it to my kids. So I can be around. I'm doing this with my kid. I've taken my 14-year-old out a number of times now to, I have him shoot pistol caliber carbine division so he can just like get the idea of the action shooting sports without having to think about quad loading a shotgun or drawing a pistol from a holster or anything like that. He doesn't even need a belt to shoot PCC. He can just stick the long stick mags to reload a PCC in his pocket. And, it's relatively committal as far as equipment. I can just throw one in his hands, turn on the red dot, and put 2 holes in the paper and 1 on steel to knock it over, and he knows what to do. And I can coach him, and he's done so well. And even my 4-year-old, my 7-year-old want to go out and do it. My little girl wants to do it, and she's 11, and she's she's got national titles and dance competitions, and we all want to do it now. They see mommy and daddy do dry fire. It's a family affair. Like, I can't do that playing drums up in the attic.
Yeah.
And rattling the house, and the kids are wondering when daddy's going to be done. And then they want to play dad's nice drum set. I can't have little kids like pounding on my really nice exotic Babinga wood drum set, because you can't get wood drums anymore because of some damn like embargo or something on that type of wood, I guess. Some sort of politics around it. So that's over. And so, like, what kind of life is that? So motivation, it's not to mention, like, I thoroughly believe people begin something for one reason but continue it for another. At least that's been my experience. And I got more friends now than I have in high school. Man, we met because I'm in the shooting world, right? Like, we through common contacts. And even though some of those people may not be worth continuing contact with,
right.
It doesn't matter. I've met some of the best people I've ever met through this. I don't even know what to call it. Activity, engagement. Like, I couldn't justify ever stopping. And it probably because the Second Amendment in and of itself, I mean, they call the gun the great equalizer, right? I don't want to get into political stuff, but people seem to value equality over freedom. But equality, equal treatment under the law, constitutional equality is very important. And, a gun doesn't care. Just like money. And I love capitalism just as much as I love the Second Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms. I'm a capitalist through and through, man. I'm a businessman just as much as I'm a Second Amendment advocate. And it's not being a gun guy. It's not about guns. Second Amendment has nothing to do with guns. Guns are the preferred mode, but it's the right to keep, possess, and bear, carry around. I got a knife in my hands right now, right? Like, arms.
Right.
It's about the intrinsic natural right to self-preservation, which to me is synonymous with capitalism. It's the moral right to provide for yourself and your loved ones without the interruption of violence from any outside source.
Right.
And the proper role of government is to provide the protection from that. But it's still our responsibility as individuals to provide the first layer of protection from those things. And so, I've made so many friends in this industry, this activity, it's so diverse. Man, I can't tell you. Man, I've been flown out to California to teach private shooting clubs. Nothing dudes. Like the most cinematically stereotypical group of gay dudes in a indoor shooting range in the middle of Southern California and Northern California you could possibly imagine. Like if you could imagine me being flown out to California and dropped off by a taxi with my gear to an indoor shooting range that was discreet, and walking into a group of like just diverse stereotypes of gay dudes, and that being a movie, that's what it was. It felt like Fight Club 2 or something. Fight Club 2017. But and like teaching them the most basic fundamentals.
Yeah.
Most fundamental fundamentals. Because they wanted to be able to defend themselves. And they were so insistent upon no pictures, no social media. We all left our phones outside because they didn't want anyone from their community to know they were learning how to handle guns because it's so inappropriate and so un-PC.
Oh, yeah. Especially out here in California. It's
for left-wing faggots, as they said.
Right.
Those were their words. Left-wing faggots can't be seen with guns. But we need to be able to protect ourselves because nobody else is going to protect us.
Seems pretty commonsensical to me. You know?
But I'm like, guys, this makes you and me the same.
Yep.
And then I made the joke, if we take all these off, the clothes, we're all the same. And I got some woo. Like, right.
Take it off, buddy.
Yeah. So I'm like, but let's stick with the gun, okay? And then, let's see our gun. It's so beautiful and pure and basic and fundamental and sweet, and I do it for a game. They're doing it because they were scared and wanted to be able to protect themselves, and they understood that just because you have a guitar, you're not a musician. Because you have a gun, you might feel safe, but you're not skilled, and putting that damn thing in your hands makes you more scared because you don't know how to use it. You don't know what's what. And I showed them how to work things. Like during this COVID crisis, my primary FFL, they're basically a local sponsor, Gallinson's Guns, with whom I do all my local transfers. Anytime a sponsor sends me a gun, it gets sent to them. I do the background check and pick it up through them. They're over 100 years old gun store in downtown Salt Lake.
Yeah.
They needed some help, and so Alicia and I went down and worked there for a couple of days during the panic buying. People were scared because it was all over the news. Police departments all over the U.S. were announcing, like, hey, we're not enforcing nonviolent crimes, which we all know that nonviolent crimes can turn violent really quickly, and so people are buying guns. I helped probably a dozen more, maybe 15 people buy their first gun. Help them select. Some were rifles, some were shotguns, some were pistols, all different types of people.
Yeah.
Incredible, man.
So that's why it feels like to me that it would be a proper segue for you to get into the training environment. I get the passion. What's that?
I love training people that are motivated, but I love training myself more. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mike, the drummer, love training people that want to learn drums more than he loved to play.
Yeah.
But I love to play 3-gun.
So what's the end game then? Like, what do you see like as the pinnacle of success for you, or what you want your legacy to be? Like when you're
pinnacle. It's a process, man.
No finish line, huh?
There's only one finish line for any of us, man. You know that.
Yeah. But for you, like doing 3-gun though, like, I mean, is it something that you feel like for the rest of your life, this is what you're going to do? Like you're going to be competing, you're going to be going to matches and networking and with sponsorships and things like that and doing the marketing. That'll be like your
God willing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to monetize it more, and it's becoming more of a professional thing. I'm adding some things to my website this month that'll hopefully be ready to go by July 4th.
What is your website? So you can plug it on here.
SeanGoBoom.com.
There you go.
It's just a severely out of date blog, and it's got some drills on it, and a bio, and it's enough to direct people to my other social accounts, my YouTube channel, my Instagram. The most up to date anything for me is Instagram always,
which is
Sean.go.boom.
SEAN. Cool.
But I've got a student, an online student in Texas I'm starting with in the morning, tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Who wants to start 3-gun, and this individual is working with a person who has land like a little under 200 acres outside of Dallas, about an hour, to build a shooting range so this person can shoot 3-gun.
Nice.
You can just go to a range. Like, there are places in Texas.
Yeah,
but I need a place to just train. Like, okay. And this person bought a pistol today. Now they've been consulting with me, for about 2 months. Finally grew tired and just bought one. Like, well, how much is that one that you just posted? I'm like, well, it's, this will probably be your second gun or third gun. You don't need this to get started. An Atlas Gunworks Hyperion is a $4,500 pistol starting without any custom finishes or, it's they know that they're not people's first gun, right? Like, unless you're rolling in it, people don't just go out and buy an Atlas as their first gun. It's a gun of someone who's trained, someone who knows what they're a discerning eye and hand, right?
With all this stuff going on in the world right now, with this COVID-19 and pandemic and shelter in place and misinformation and murder hornets coming in. I mean, it's just Jesus. What's your biggest fear with all of this? Concern, fear, if you will.
I don't think my fears have ever changed, man. Like, dude, I've lost everything before.
Yeah.
Shit. 2 years ago, my wife got sideswiped in my car. If she had been 2 feet further into the intersection by the asshole that took out the front end of my Dodge Challenger she was driving, my wife would be dead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's experience or what, but like, I've literally lost everything. I've gone from being worth $6 million to not being able to afford a diaper for my baby daughter, who's now 11.
Yep.
I'm more scared about my daughter going from tween to teen and not having a shotgun within arm's reach.
Yeah.
That's kind of a joke, but kind of not, man.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, I don't fear for myself anymore.
What about society as a whole? Like, where do you see it going? I mean, I know for, when I talked about like me having anxiety when all this stuff like started kicking off, because I want to be an asset to my family, an asset to my community, an asset to my tribe. And if I'm sick or something happens to me, then I can't be an asset. And that doesn't make me feel good. I just don't like it. But when I saw people rushing out during a pandemic to go and buy toilet paper, I think that's where a lot of my fear and anxiety was coming from, because I was losing my faith in humanity. I was like, are you really, we're really rushing. This is the stupidity of humanity. Like, we're running to the stores to get toilet paper. Like, since when is toilet paper even on the spectrum of like survival? I mean, for me, maybe because I'm a man, it's a little different. I was in the military, so it's definitely different. I It's not on the top of my list. I don't really care. I have a hose or whatever I need to use. Not worried
Josh,
about
I'm
toilet paper.
surprised that you're surprised that there are that many fuckheads out there.
Not really. I guess I always knew that it was there, but you kind of like, when you stay in your, I think for the most part, I'm an extrovert, but I also am an introvert at the same time, like where I stay in my bubble with my niche and my family and my little, castle compound, whatever you will.
You're an extrovert when you have to be.
Right.
You're not a natural extrovert.
No, I don't think so at all.
You're extrovert capable.
Right. So I think when I get outside or when something happens like COVID, and then it highlights all the shit that I probably already know. It's like, holy shit, because you want to believe, you want to hope for the best. You know what I mean? You expect the worst, you hope for the best. And when all this stuff kicked off, it was like, fuck, man. Like it was really making me nervous. So it was like, if this is where we're going, like, what happens if things get worse? What happens if like people don't have paychecks and they don't have food to eat and they don't have and this thing goes on for months and months and months?
See, I already went there.
Yeah.
I went there the second I heard pandemic. Well, shit. Here we go.
Yeah.
There's, going back to the Mormon upbringing, there's a Mormon scripture, one of the few things that I hold on to still. If you're prepared, you shall not fear.
Right.
And preparation is a big thing for me.
Everybody kept talking about that, about the Mormons were prepared. Like everyone's, the Mormons are prepared. And I didn't know what they were talking about because I don't know much about the Mormon religion. What do they mean by that?
There's a cultural tradition to buy and hold on to a year's supply of non-perishable food.
Oh, okay.
So like in the greater Salt Lake area, you could probably bet that 2 out of 3 homes have at least 6 months worth of canned something or other in their basement.
Yeah.
There's a good likelihood, right?
Yeah.
Just given the average human condition, they probably don't adhere to the year. It's a tradition, right? It's from 100 years ago, but it's not doomsday prepper. It's just common sense. It's the idea. It just comes from persecution.
Right.
Like the Mormon founder, Joseph Smith, he was an ephemophiliac. Are you familiar with the term?
No, what is that?
So a pedophile is one who's attracted to prepubescent children. And a phebophiliac is one who's attracted to teenage post-pubescent or pubescent, but not necessarily of age.
Right.
Statutory
yeah.
Someone who would be convicted of statutory rape in our day. Okay. He was in a phebophile, and he instituted a doctrine of polygamy. Mormons are very historically known for having multiple wives, and he brought a lot of people into it, but he hid it for about a decade, lied to his legal and primary and first wife about it for a decade.
Right.
Okay. It's historically documented. I'm not making shit up. And for, for the record, I am a Mormon of record in full standing membership, but as far as practicing goes, it's another story. But while I'm drinking whiskey and talking, which, by the way, the founder Joseph Smith really enjoyed his whiskey. So
nice.
if somebody could say something's a sin and do it at the same time, therein lied my beginning of my issues with the whole damn thing. But I was raised in it.
Right.
I was a missionary in Las Vegas. I brought about 40 people into the Mormon church, knocking on doors. There are about 6 lessons you teach about once a week in order to bring someone into the Mormon church. before you baptize them when they're committed. And I knew they're called the missionary discussions at the time. They've kind of changed their program, but back in 2002, that was the 2000 to 2002 was when I did it for 2 years. They were called the 6 discussions. And I knew for every 6 first discussions, I would teach somebody. I would baptize one person. And I knew every 100 doors I knocked on, I would get one first discussion. And so I was able to baptize one person every week for 2 years. It took me, obviously, I didn't baptize 104 people, baptized a little over 40. It took me about 16 months to figure that out.
What do you feel about it now? I mean, knowing some of the hypocrisy that, is involved with all of it. I mean, do you...
No different than anything else in the human condition. Anywhere you look and find humans.
It's a good way of looking at it.
Culturally. So my only problem is this. Culturally, I was raised in it. My dad's not a Mormon. My mom is. But, I've got a lot of Mormon family. Culturally, if you're Jewish, there's a place for you.
Right.
Shit, I wasn't even planning on going here, but this is some...
We're going.
This is backstory shit.
Right.
Stuff. Last episode was surface. So if you're Jewish, okay, let's say you're raised Orthodox. You got the curls and the headdress and the stuff you got to wear all the time, and you say your prayers 5 times a day or whatever. And I'm altogether ignorant of the traditions now. I used to know them because I for a long time made it my... I studied a lot of other religions,
right,
for a lot of reasons, but I became very, 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 very good at bringing people into the Mormon Church. I'm very good at selling. I'm a closer.
right.
As what was that Alex Baldwin movie? Coffee is for closes. ABC always be closing. Such a damn good movie.
Yeah, it is.
I'm a salesman. Like,
yeah.
I'm a marketing guy. I'm a salesman. I'm a business development guy. Like, I love every nuance of human persuasion. And
right.
It's not from a manipulation standpoint. I hate manipulation. I hate disingenuous, dishonest. I love storytelling, and I love aligning people's values with new, whether it's a concept or lifestyles or products or services that helps provide solutions that they didn't know existed.
Right.
I love human persuasion. And I thoroughly believe the old saying, a man persuaded against his will is a man of the same opinion still. Many of the individuals that I brought in to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are faithful, dedicated, weekly attending, full tithe paying. That means 10% of their income before taxes, members of the church to this day, 20 years later.
Pretty good numbers.
I'd say 80% of them because they still call me.
Yeah.
To them, I'm the one that bettered their life. And for them, if it's something that they believe still, if it's something that helped them go from good, because none of them were bad, go from good to better, if it's a belief system and a moral code that heightens their existence, I can't think of a one that I regret.
Right.
Hypocrisy, shit. Like, I can't be responsible for the founders or the leaders.
Yeah.
You know, the president
Point.
who's a Russell M. Nelson, who was the president of the church and prophet of the world, who claims to be and is sustained by all active members of the Mormon church as a prophet, seer, and revelator. And those are all very powerful words if you think about those. Every 6 months, the Mormon church has a general conference that's broadcast to all members, you know, some 12 to 14 million members, depending on what numbers you believe are published versus real, and who actually consumes the content. Said in October, it's in every April and October, said in October 2019 that in April of 2020, because it's the 200th year of the founding of the Mormon church in April,
Oh, wow.
that it would be unlike any general conference before seen. They promised that. And so when COVID shit hit in like February, Salt Lake, people are losing their minds. And then we have this big earthquake, right?
Yeah.
And so like the big golden statue of the angel Moroni, he lost his trumpet. He's supposed to be the angel that's blowing his trumpet eastward as Christ comes again for a second time, as he's that angel in the book of Revelations. The Mormons believe it's an angel named Moroni, and he lost his arm that's holding the trumpet, at least the extended arm.
Oh, wow.
And so it looks like someone took a picture, and it looks like he's looking at his watch, and someone made a meme and said, like, you know, when Moroni's looking at his watch, shit's about to happen. But
that's funny, dude.
But the funny thing is he the prophet stood up opening talk of General Conference beginning of April 2020 and said, "I'm sorry. I know I promised you an amazing General Conference, and it's usually in this big conference center in downtown Salt Lake City." And he was talking to to an empty room from a podium, talking to a camera. But I didn't see this coming. Can you imagine a prophet of a church who has a most recently disclosed secret stash emergency rainy day fund of $120 billion? So I'm so sorry. I know I promised you this, but no one saw this coming. Now let's talk about God's will for the world. I can't, I mean, my heart's moved on in a lot of respects, but I still can't tell you how painful that is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, at a certain point in my life, I for a long time, I was very certain in a lot of respects about how the world and the universe and God and things were oriented, and to learn that they weren't. But, you know, shooting in that community, and I didn't know it at the time, I most certainly still believe in God, by the way. And I feel like God was saving me from a huge crash and burn that could possibly have led to me ending my own life. If otherwise it hadn't been there. If I didn't have this community around me, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know where my wife and I would be. She and I have, it's been amazing for both of us. We've made friends. Do you know what it's like to be a woman raising 4 kids with, Utah's like the 1950s transplanted into the 21st century, man.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've never experienced it.
But they've got this to like look on to the rest of the world and see all sorts of shit going on. And it's almost more painful.
Yeah.
In some regards. I mean, I'm sure there's envy of the 1950s housewives that could just like be in their own little world with their soap operas and bonbons and get on with shit in their laundry and their cooking. And not to say that I would come home and say, "Hey, honey, what's for dinner? Pour me a drink." But we're as co-equal as possible. But the shooting community is what gave her, that first step out back into the world. Because Alicia's a dynamic, social, extremely intelligent and quick and beautiful soul. That, I mean, I'll never forget our first date. Like, she's outwitting me, and I never thought I'd meet someone that was outwitting me.
Right.
Like out sarcastifying me. out and like making me feel like a fool in the most pleasant way possible.
Right.
And not to say that I'm the quickest wit on the globe, but I'd just been on so many damn dates.
Yeah.
Like shit. Like I was cracking jokes with the date I went on before I met Alicia. I said, "Hey, did you hear they took gullible out of the dictionary?" to this chick I was driving home early, and she said, "No, really?" So I don't know if that was just happening in population or what, but I mean, that's a true fucking story too. And I don't know, but Alicia's substantially quick and capable and like just empathetic and hardworking, and those goddamn idiots that laid her off. That was the worst fucking thing they could possibly do. They don't deserve her, but like I knew that from day one. So
is she okay with it? Is she all right?
Well, yeah. I mean, like 19 White Claws the night of.
Yeah.
I actually had landed us for my agency a social media contract with a shooting industry company to be announced, but local to Utah, that's a competitor to one of Alicia's sponsors.
Yeah.
And she's going to take over that contract for my company. It's essentially the amount she's going to make off of it is essentially the amount she was taking home income wise.
There you go.
And literally that happened the afternoon of the day she was laid off. So like fiscally speaking, like nothing changed.
Right.
But it was the emotional impact of a friend deciding to just be greedy with an asset that was worth nothing.
Yeah.
Instead of working with friends that were more than capable of taking that asset to market for them.
Right.
While they were busy going on their Vegas trips.
Yep.
Which were no longer possible.
Do you think the future for you guys is going to be in Salt Lake City? You think you'll stay there for forever? Or do you have plans on going anywhere else?
It's really hard to answer. There are a couple of things here, man. Socially speaking, my direction towards the exit door of Mormonism is very straight and narrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already left the building mentally, but like we still go because of the community, and
The
it's
kids.
actually social suicide to like declare that shit. Like my kids would be ostracized in our neighborhood if we did that.
So sad, man. Bums me
It's
out.
retarded,
Yeah.
and I'm like 200% certain that no one in my neighborhood listens to your podcast, so I'm talking about. I mean, I hope the best for you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But if they do, at the same time, that's the thing. My lawyer, one of my best friends, was in my congregation. Are you a churchgoer?
No. So like I kind of had a similar experience as yours, where I grew up in non-denominational church. You know, my mom was like the local Coke dealer when I was a kid, and then she found Jesus. What's that?
Did you say your mom was the local Coke dealer?
Big time, yeah, yeah, yeah. So she was
Okay,
doing
cool.
her.
I just wanted to make sure I heard that.
Yeah. You heard correctly. So that was her thing when I was a kid, and then she found God, and then just went off the deep end with it. You know what I mean? Like, just it was
Sure.
like couldn't listen to anything that wasn't Christian music. Wasn't allowed to watch any movies that were above PG. It was like really, really intense. But as a kid, I ate it up. I was like, dude, like my grandma used to tell me I was a Bible toting evangelist, you know? It really separated me from a lot of people because I felt like if you didn't believe the way that I did, then you were going to hell. And I felt terrible for you. So I used to have these conversations with my bus driver going to school, you know, who was a Jehovah's Witness. And we would just go into these as a kid. Yeah. And
no, wait, your friend was or you were?
No, my bus driver was Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, okay.
And so I would talk to her, you know, about religion and how she's going to go to hell because she didn't believe like me. And I was a kid, so she like was, you know, she was pretty easy on me. But
one time when I was a Mormon missionary, some JWs knocked on our apartment door.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny. Jehovah's Witnesses coming into a Mormon missionary apartment trying to convert us.
That was awesome. Good luck, buddy.
It went exactly how you thought it would go. Nothing exciting happened. It was just awkward.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, I went to I was in the same kind of boat as you, and as I got older, I started to lose touch with a lot of the stuff in the church. A lot of it for me was the judgment of other people. You know, I was like, oh, well, you know, I walk into a church with tattoos and stuff. It's like, oh, look at this scumbag. You know what I mean? It's like the most judgmental people, usually, not always. It's just, that's a huge generalization, but a lot of times they're in the church.
Dude,
like,
tattoos are the biggest regret of my youth, man.
Yeah.
I never got one.
Right.
And now I'm 41. What am I going to go out and get a fucking tattoo? Big, like, it just screams midlife crisis.
Nah, dude. That'd be good. So, yeah, I don't know. So, to answer your question, no, I'm not a churchgoer. I do believe that there's a God. I think that we get stuck on language a lot. So, I think it's call it universe, call it energy, call it God, call it divine intelligence, call it Yahweh, call it Allah, call it whatever you want to call it. I think there's something.
Call it Allah and we're good.
Okay, cool.
That means 3,000 people dead in New York.
Yeah, fuck that. But what I mean by that is that, like, I don't want to get stuck on language. I think that everybody has their path, and everybody has what they perceive to be the omnipotent, all-knowing God. I don't necessarily believe that it's this guy in the sky controlling everything. But, you know, what do I know? I'm not dead, so I guess I'll find out when I die.
So, I mean, let me put it this way. Early on, like, I was taught to pray in my heart, okay?
Yeah.
It's probably the only thing my delightfully delusional and crazy mom taught me that I think I've stuck to. Everything else I've had to fucking figure out other ways.
Yeah.
And so, but I was told that I can talk to God in my heart, and I don't even have to say words.
Yeah.
Like at an early age, of like 6, 7 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
And it really resonated with me. Okay. Like, this is my own thing. Like, playground at recess, in the middle of a math test. So I tested the shit out of this. What works, what doesn't. And I developed a relationship with whatever the fuck it was I was talking to.
Right.
And I figured out some things outside of me that, to me, dare I say, empirically work for me.
Yep.
And in leftist terms, I believe that means my truth.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is I share this story with Kathleen, my wife, that when I was a kid, same thing, I was praying in my heart, wasn't praying out loud, but I was praying in my heart. This one day I was working on a shrimp farm that was going up in Texas. And it was these old Vietnam vets that were doing the shrimp farm. And so they hired me to do the framing, to help with the framing. I was like 11 or 12 years old. So I'm out there with the pastor of my church, and we're doing the framing and this and that. And before that, I was doing lifeguard training, like junior lifeguard training. So I'd go from junior lifeguard training straight to work and go and work on the framing. My family was super poor at the time. We didn't have any money, like zero money. And so, you know, whatever little money I had, I would buy my own school clothes from the time I was 11 on, you know, buy my own school clothes, food, whatever I needed. And this one day I didn't have lunch, and I was like, man, I have no lunch, and I'm exhausted, and I'm tired, and I'm starving, and it's hotter than sin out here. We're in Texas in the middle of the summer. It's humid, and it was terrible. And so I did that little prayer in my heart, like, God, please, like, help me get food today. I have no money. I am hungry, and like I'm shaky. I'm all like, I was really hypoglycemic, you know, because I needed sugar. And so randomly, this guy comes up to me, Brad, says, hey, my mom just got back from California, and she's going to take us out to lunch. So you want to have my lunch that I brought? Because I'm not going to use it. You can have it. And I didn't share that with anybody else. I didn't share what my prayer was or whatever. And so I'll never forget that story. I'll never forget that happening for me. I've always had a knowing, an internal knowing that everything's going to be okay for me. You know, that things will be okay. It'll always work out. I can fall into a bucket of shit.
So why don't I have anxiety about COVID or any of the bullshit on CNN or Instagram or anything in between?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
For you listeners at home, I just threw my hands up in the air.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've got stories like that. And I'll tell you, it all started to fall apart for me, not because of hypocrisy of leadership, like, because a lot of the stuff literally usually seemed to all fall into place and work, but then little things started to not work out when I would have an experience and then I would be told that the nature of God was different. I'm like, well, actually, I've experienced something much more merciful than that. Yeah. So you're not going to get my loyalty and money based on what you just said. And it's just started tightening up. I'm like, sorry, I'm not going to hate gay people.
Right.
Like, maybe God doesn't hate fags.
Right.
And I don't mean to sound so crude. There's a guy in downtown Salt Lake named Nick James. He's gay. He likes to be with men.
Right.
You've heard of that. I don't know if that's in California yet, but look around. I don't know. And
totally acceptable.
He has a special friend named Robbie. And in fact, he is the only person in all of Utah that it's literally Nick and Robbie with an IE, ROBBIE. They have 592 following them on Instagram as of the recording of this podcast. But he's the only hairdresser and colorist in the state of Utah with a master's degree. Nick is meticulous. He's changed locations probably 4 times since I've seen him as a consulting client for the first time. That's how I met him. And I send my wife to him because he takes care of my wife better than anybody. He does my stupid hipster haircut better than anybody with more meticulous precision.
Right.
And I remember when he sicked his boyfriend Robbie, and I don't know if they've been married. And Nick and Robbie, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry if I don't call you husband or but I love those 2 guys more than I can possibly say, especially Nick, because I've seen Nick employ people who seem to be those who would be rejected by every single person in Salt Lake.
Right.
And one time there was a dude just like Nick's just this like serial entrepreneur, right? He's this like he's just an entrepreneur. Now, hair color is his specialty. He does hair so damn well. And he takes care of Alicia. And when Alicia wants something, and Alicia knows what the fuck she wants, her sister went to like 9 different hair schools in like LA, and like her millionaire brother paid for it all. So Alicia knows what the fuck she wants because Alicia was like the guinea pig for all of her sister's like student homework and shit. So Alicia like went through all that stuff. So Alicia knows what she wants when she wants something. Like that red stripe in her hair was very specific. Nick did that. And Nick's got that color. That's Nick and Robbie, Nick James. But I'll tell you, when Nick wants to tone something or change something or do something, you know, Alicia just has to sit down and listen because he knows what the fuck he's talking about. But what I'm getting at is when I've been in there just getting my hair did, just a stupid fucking 40-year-old asshole getting his hipster haircut because my hair is so thick that I can't handle it if it isn't cut the way it is. I see who he employs. Tranny weirdos in downtown Salt Lake that, with tattoos and plugs in places that I know my community. I know my state. I know the people here. I know people won't just employ those types of folks.
Right.
And I guess what I'm getting at is Nick is the type of person like, God damn it. If Jesus had a hair salon, he'd be like Nick.
Yeah.
He'd employ people like the kind of people that Nick has to sweep up fucking hair. They can't do a damn thing. Like big muscly dudes with like long blue hair wigs on that don't know if they're a boy or a girl. And I don't give a shit. I don't care. And that's who I think Jesus would be in the 21st century in downtown Salt Lake.
Agreed.
I don't think he'd be an old 90-year-old dude telling people what kind of underwear to wear.
Yeah.
Over the internet. And saying, whoa, I didn't see this virus coming. I'm sorry. That's what I think Jesus would be. Because if you look at the Old Testament and the prophets from the Old Testament, the way they behaved, Then you look at the accounts of Jesus of Nazareth from Matthew and Mark, which are from historian accounts, academics, to say are the most accurate. Jesus was all about simple and plain and just letting the simplest and most plain person shine.
Yeah.
And seeing value where everyone else didn't. And one of my most favorite students, and I'm not going to name him, was a dude that was a washed up bodybuilder. The dude twitched like a motherfucker. It's like he had more stimulants. I'm sure he did coke and everything under the sun. He couldn't hold a pistol in front of him more than, I don't know, 2 seconds before his hands started shaking.
Yeah.
But he came out to 3-gun matches, and I love teaching him. He actually started doing good. He actually came out and shot a match called Hard as Hell. It's like a Spartan race plus 3-gun.
Oh, wow.
And it was so poorly run because it's just not because of the people that put it on, because it was just such an undertaking of an event and the number of people that wanted to participate. And this dude borrowed, like he texted my wife because he knew I wasn't going to lend him my shit. But he texted Alicia and asked her if he could borrow an extra shotgun caddy, which is an attachment for your belt. And what 3-gunners do is they change out what you put on your belt. Like you just have a bunch of clips that you put on your belt so if a stage every 3-gun stage is different, every single one. So if you need, so he needed some extra 3-gun caddies, and he texted her like an idiot, please. And so she finally relented and gave some of her shotgun caddies to him. And I wasn't shooting this match.
Right.
I decided this stupid match. Oh, I hated this match, and I loved it. I loved it because I was shooting with my friends and the camaraderie it created. And I hated it because of the way it was run and how frustrated I got shooting it. It's one of those matches that you get broken. It breaks everyone. Everyone gets fucking pissed off and like right on the edge of tears. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you win it. You're on the edge of tears at some point in the match. It's so fucking hard. It's called Hard as Hell for a damn reason.
Right.
Brian Nelson, if you wind up listening to this an hour and a half, fuck you. Love you, dude. It's in southern Utah, right outside of St. George, in Purgatory Flats, appropriately enough. You're rolling through moon dust on your belly, shooting with your rifle, and you're inhaling fucking, you feel like you have pneumonia for 2 weeks afterwards. Shooting targets with your rifle because you got your stupid competition compensator. It's the best and worst match of the year. It's always in the first weekend of December. This particular match weekend, I took my my son to see Metallica.
Nice.
And those guys are in their fucking, late 60s or whatever. I'm like, Metallica's in Salt Lake. I'm taking my son to see Metallica because this may never line up again.
Right.
Hard as Hell is always going to be there. So, of course, December 2018 is the last hard as hell because there's like politics going on in St. George with this stupid range, and December 2019 hard as hell doesn't happen, but Metallica comes in town again. Who the fuck knew? Those assholes are going to tour through the 2070s, but hard as hell is never coming back. Who knew? Anyway, but Danny, this random guy that I showed 3-gun to,
yep,
was shooting hard as hell, and he asked my wife for some stuff. Man, showing him how to shoot 3-gun, man, he'd been through some stuff. He lost his parents. He inherited a lot of money. His name was Danny. No one's going to know who the fuck he is. I don't even know where he is. Shit. But he shot hard as hell. That was his goal. He wanted to train 3-gun for 6 months. Took lessons from me. And he wanted to shoot hard as hell. He bought one of my shotguns from me. He bought my first 3-gun shotgun from me. He knew shotguns better than I knew shotguns. He's like, "Did you know this was doing this?" And I'm like, "I had no idea, man."
How do you end up doing?
Shit, bottom third, but he didn't finish last.
It's not
He
bad.
was competing in the biggest division,
Right.
the deepest field. Tactical optics. You can have one magnified optic on one gun, which is the rifle. And then you got a pistol with 140 millimeter magazine, as many rounds as you can cram into that, which is usually 23 rounds.
Right.
And then you got a shotgun with tube that you can start with 8 in the tube and 1 in the chamber. People usually have a 12-round extended tube. And, he started bottom third. It was a hard match, though, man. Shit, I didn't shoot it. It was cold and rainy, too. You know Brojack?
Yeah, I do.
Have you had her on the show?
I haven't. She's out of Vegas, right?
She's in Vegas.
Yeah. I know who she is, but I would love to have her on the show for sure.
I'll introduce you to her.
Nice.
She shot on the same squad as Alicia. So Alicia was on the JP Rifles was the title squad or the title sponsor of the match. And Alicia was on that squad because, she's sponsored by Vortex Optics, and the head of social media for JP Rifles is also sponsored by Vortex Optics, and it was the sponsor super squad. Jackie is also sponsored by Vortex, or by JP. So I had Dustin Sanchez from JP. We had Josh Tarrant from Vortex Optics, who also shoots Breda shotguns. Alicia and I also shoot for Breda shotguns. We had Josh Freilich, who is the 2018 World Shotgun IPSC champion. He shoots for Federal. Alicia and I didn't at the time, but the following year now we are on Team Federal. And then Ruben Alexson, I believe, was there. Adam Maxwell from Vortex Optics was also there. Dave Hartman from the 3-Gun Show and Vortex Optics was also there. Anyway, it was a good squad. Travis Vogel from Vortex Optics, just Chad Torres from Vortex Optics, just a really good all-star squad.
Yeah,
really good guys. And and Dakota Overland, who is a junior shooter. All hella good 3-gun shooters. And it was an awful match. And I showed up for one day. I drove down the morning after the Metallica concert just to see my friends, because
Right.
I mean, it's a 4-hour drive and I miss my friends. And what's my motivation? Like, the social aspect is really what keeps me going. But I also want to be a better shooter and see how high is. But the relationships really keep me going day to day. I love having the friends I do, the community. And Alicia shooting that major match by herself, shit. That was my first major match 2 years previous.
Right.
For my friend Danny, he was in a different squad. That was his first major match who I had trained. And so it was sentimental to me. And to see him shoot, to know he was there shooting, even it didn't matter where he finished.
Right.
It doesn't matter where you finish hard as hell, because it's in the first weekend of December. The shooting season's well over.
Right.
Shooting season's pretty much over at the end of October.
Okay.
People that shoot hard as hell are kind of just like, well, let's see where the fuck we land. If you win, you win. If you don't, whatever.
Yep.
There's even a specialty division called Trooper Division where you're allowed certain additional privileges, but you have to hike everything you have with you a mile into the range. So all your ammo, you can even bring an additional pistol caliber carbine with you if you want to shoot that instead of a pistol.
Yeah.
It's basically 4-gun, but you have to have it all in one bag. All your ammo, all your guns, everything you use, you hike in 1 mile into the range, and then when you're done, you hike it out 1 mile. Trooper Division.
Nice.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And you see all the Trooper Division guys are all in like fatigues and wearing weird shit, and like who's shooting Trooper.
Right.
It's fun.
Yep.
It's truly an outlaw 3-gun match.
Yep. I'll have to go check it out one of these days.
I think you just need to fly your ass or drive your ass up here from California and just have a 3-gun day with me. Did you see the YouTube video before Rhino took it down where Luke came out here and just shot 3-gun with me? We just set up a bunch of fucking steel and had a 3-gun day.
I may have seen it. I don't know. Why did they take it down?
Corporate bullshit. I'm actually doing a LinkedIn post talking about that video and how influencers provide the value of co-branding with other major brands, and that brands can leverage if they utilize influencer marketing.
Yeah.
And I was actually texting Luke today, like, hey, where did that video go? Because we spent a long time making it. And he's like, sorry, they made me take it down a year ago. So I have to upload it again to something.
So is he still associated with Rhino?
He is.
Okay, cool. So I want to ask you, man, if you could say anything to the listeners right now, during these times of uncertainty, if you will, what are some ways that like some people can like find maybe hope, security, safety, whatever it is? I mean, because there's a wide spectrum of things right now, right? Like people losing their jobs and financial, implications for this whole thing. There's the mental health aspect of things, with people freaking out about what's going to happen next. So what would you tell those people like to kind of calm some of the chaos at the moment?
The more I propel myself into life and existence, the more uncertainty I experience.
What do you mean by that?
The less security I have found. Security is absolutely 100% an illusion. Control is an illusion. Now, there are certain things you and I can control.
Right.
So let me put this in the context of a shooting match
Yeah.
as a metaphor. So this can be probably digested by the listeners.
Yep.
Okay. If I go into a major match, that means national level, going up against guys who have world titles, national titles, or otherwise. Men and women, sorry. People, folks, fellow humans. The purity of the shooting sports is what I love most about it. We're all assholes that have families, jobs. We're all pros. We all have sponsorships. We all have different levels of support. It doesn't matter. Champions are made in practice. That's a quote from Keith Garcia, many times over national champion. You show up, your preparation's your preparation.
Right.
You ever had a math test in high school, college? You either know your shit or you don't. So when it's your turn to shoot a stage, usually a major match has 10 to 12 stages. You shoot up, you show up, you load your guns, you stage the ones downrange that you're going to transition to, and then you show up at the starting line with your starting gun, whether it's your pistol in your holster, your rifle in your hands, and then the buzzer goes off. You've had a chance to walk your stages. You've had a chance to use your rangefinder to know how far your long distance targets are for your rifle shots. You've had a chance to look around trees and around barrels for all the little knockdown steals that you need to shoot with your shotgun. You've done your homework or you haven't.
Right.
If you are prepared, you shall not fear. Are you going to execute 100% on everything? Probably not. Is everyone else going to execute 100% on everything? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, do you need to make more money than everybody else in order to be okay? No. Do you have to have a bigger house than everybody else to be okay? No. You have to have a nicer car than everybody else to be okay? No. All right. So now that we're over that, let's keep this in the context of a 3-gun match, okay? When I go there, I know that Matt Martini is going to be better slugs than me. When I'm shooting shotgun, I can blaze through shooting knockdown steel targets on the ground. They're sitting on they're like little golf tees, like little 6-inch steel plates sitting upright on golf tees, but they're metal. That I shoot with my shotgun 5 to 15 yards out with my shotgun, with birdshot, varying elevations. I can run that shit really fast, but then Matt Martini, he's going to be faster at slugs. I also know that Nils Jonasson and John McClane are going to be faster at pistol stuff than me. I also know that Dylan Easley and I'm not going to name every guy, but are going to be better at long-range rifle than me. But I'm a really good middle ground guy. I can just hold my own and do okay at everything. I'm going to finish upper middle pack. I'm going to be at the top of the bottom third, All right, I'm sorry. I'm going to be at the bottom of the top third or the top of the middle third. Somewhere in there. Upper
Okay.
mid. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And based on the fact that I've got 2 companies that I own, I've got contractors and employees, I've got a wife, 4 kids, 2 cars, I've got a mortgage. I only got so many hours in the day. I want to work out. I cook my own meals. And I do better promotion for my sponsors than any of the guys I'm going up against, who are going to continue to provide support for me in the coming year, in the coming season. And I'll be able to shoot more. This match that I'm in, whatever it is, however I land, I'm going to go in when that timer goes off. I'm going to do the best damn run I possibly can at that time. So I know I'm only as good as my current at bat.
Right.
I'm doing baseball analogies. I'm only as good as my current make ready. My current, they say make ready when you are getting ready to shoot. Okay, shooter, make ready. I'm only as good as my current make ready. Cool. I've won matches. I've fallen flat on my face at matches. Horrible. My friends were laughing at me and making fun of me 6 months afterwards. Okay, I'm disqualified. But you know what? I have really, really good friends that I was sitting around drinking whiskey and eating steak, and we were laughing together about a really funny time that shit went horribly wrong in a non-consequential way. That's still a win. So, uncertain times. I think if we can approach all this COVID stuff with a fresh awakening of how uncertain every single damn thing is, down to the water that comes out of your faucet. What has to happen for clean water to come out of your damn faucet? When you look at Flint, Michigan, and the yellow bullshit, the yellow cancer-causing bullshit that they had to deal with for who knows how long, that finally hit national news and is now the subject of endless Instagram memes in perpetuity. Uncertain times, if you look at it in that perspective, how is it that we can so casually say, in these uncertain times, and I'm not, you just said, I'm not minimizing your question, I'm sorry.
That's all good.
But you hear it on the news, man. Like, in these uncertain times. Like, every damn email from every single company you've ever spent money with on their fucking website.
Right.
In these uncertain times, here's our COVID-19 policy.
Right.
Fuck you, Banana Republic. I haven't spent a fucking penny with you since 2005. You haven't been cool since then, so
Right.
like we all know you're Old Navy marked up, so get fucked.
Oh.
Now they've just made them the same damn website. Like they're not even hiding it anymore. Little damn icon up at the top. They're so stupid. Like, oh, would you rather have this polo $20 more expensive? Click on the Banana Republic. From Gap to Banana Republic. Like, it's uncertain times. Like, would you rather have this shirt made by a 12-year-old instead of an 8-year-old, the price goes up. I just, look, we need to become less certain about how we exist. We need to become less ungrateful. And I say that specifically because we need to become more cognizant of how we approach our mornings. Like your eyes open, you take that breath that you're aware of. You've got an opportunity to do something. What's next?
Right.
I don't know.
I think everyone's kind of been living in the robot life. A lot of people have been kind of on autopilot. You get up, you make your coffee, you go to work, you come home, you make dinner, maybe watch TV, go to bed, do it all over again, Monday through Friday. And I think a lot of people, because they're so used to just being in the system and in the matrix, that now it's like, holy shit, what do we do now? I mean, I'm not of that mindset. For me, it's, I think what this highlighted for me was how I need to simplify my life a little bit more. And it highlighted for me the ways that I wasn't prepared.
Is it simplify, or is it just focusing energy that was being used in less focused ways?
Totally. Yeah, that too. And just knowing that, like, there were things that I didn't have, like, where it's like, if things do go south, whatever, do I have, like, my fire starters? Do I have my headlamps? Do I have, like, my ammo all dialed in? Do I have this? Do I have that? Do I have things that, like, all packaged up to where I can just get out of Dodge if I need to? No, I didn't. There was a lot of things that I didn't have. And
all right, that's a couple grand and an afternoon, man. After that, though, like, where you focus your energy and your production, your creativity, like a couple grand in an afternoon.
Right.
Once you're past that, what I'm talking about is, like, whether there's a God, whether there's, sheer randomness that created you, it doesn't matter. You didn't create you. Okay? You're not responsible for bringing you into existence. That's the fact. But the fact is, you exist, and the odds that you should exist are so minuscule that you better be goddamn grateful. And whatever your condition right now, whatever that is, however it is, whenever it is, and wherever it is, and why, use that as your starting point now to start creating something. Because whether you believe you were created or not, you can waste your time spinning your wheels on that shit. Or you can use the time you got to start creating, because you know for a damn fact that you can create.
Right.
That's real. That's now. That is perfect. That is absolutely indisputable. And for me, tomorrow, I know exactly what I'm going to do, because I know where I left today off, and I know where I want to be in a week. And I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. I'm satisfied, yet I'm not content.
Right. People like you never are, though. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing.
My shotgun took 4 months longer than it should have out of the 5 months to get back to me. This gorgeous pistol, I'm so happy to have it. It doesn't matter how long it took. COVID just ruined everything as far as timelines. But I got it now. Atlas sent me a loaner pistol to get to know the whole 2011 platform. I've been shooting the same shotgun for 2 years. I had 25,000 rounds through it, and the shell latch just shit the bed on a swinging bridge in the rain on an all shotgun stage. 48 rounds of bird shot, 4 slugs at Fort Benning last November. It decided to die. Of course, major match, last one of the year. Why not, right? Very epic way to just totally die. I still had a top 10 finish.
Nice.
But I'll tell you, I had to shoot my wife's shotgun, which was not fit for me. It was not pretty. I should have had a top 3 finish, but I had a top 10 finish. And but the conditions were what they were.
Yeah.
I had to send my shotgun back for a lot of tuning up. And it's something about this particular shotgun that's just been with me for so long that I don't want to like get a whole new one and break it in. And it's not like a baseball player wearing the same damn underwear. It's just this one. I've made so many small modifications to it that it's just too much damn work to do a whole new one from scratch. But Briley Manufacturing, who does all my shotgun customization, went to work, and then COVID hit, and they just had like the last 10% to do, and they just couldn't get back to it. They finally did, and they sent it to me, and I took it out, and it's like it never left me. And it's not like I missed a match or anything, but it's only been the last week or so that I've had all my 3 guns in my possession to get to know again.
Right.
But whatever. It's like no time's passed. And I feel like, damn, all we really have is now. So if now is hard or now is easy, whatever it is, if anything, I just got to learn to enjoy it, man. I just got to learn to be grateful for it, whatever's in front of me. And I've been through so much hard shit, man. I just, my wife and I both, that I don't know if it's not numbness. I think it's just experience and perspective. This just really hasn't phased us. Honestly, it really hasn't. Like, it sucks that she got laid off, and it sucks that a friend fucked us over, and it sucks. And we celebrated that suckiness for a whole night and a weekend, I guess. But damn, like we're over it.
Yeah.
We're moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
We've been through way worse.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think a lot of us have.
We've been through way worse than 2020. But the thing is our 2006 was when most of the world was prospering, and it was probably the worst year we ever had.
Yeah. Yep. So I think a lot of people are going to come out of this either with, I've seen some memes or, motivational things about it. Like, some people are going to come out of this with like nothing changed in their life. Some people are going to come out of this with a new skill set, a new motivation, a new passion, a new purpose, a new whatever, because they're using this time while they have it.
Meme library.
That's right. That's right.
Dude.
What's the best way? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I podcast record at least.
So what's the best way for people to support you? Like, people that listen to this podcast that are going to look you up on Instagram, are going to see what you're doing, what you're up to. What's the best way that people can support you? Is it through following you? Is it through, your online coaching? What is it? Like, what's meaningful to you? Is it the follows? Is it the likes, the comments? Is it, the what is it? What like gives you where do you get your juice?
That's a really interesting question. Like if I look at the number of followers, right? How many do I have? 37.6 thousand followers. I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska with I think there were just under 60,000 people in my hometown growing up in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
Right? That's more than half the population of my hometown growing up anyway.
Yep.
That's crazy to me. And so like I don't know. I thrive off of one-on-one interaction.
Yeah.
Like this conversation means something to me. That number.
Thank you for listening to My Backstory. Stay motivated and stay connected off the show. Follow at my_backstory_ to be a part of the journey to recovery and to see where your story goes. Or visit us online at hereismybackstory.com.
7,600 people that decided to follow my ass.
Right.
My trigger pulling, like, or the 9,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. Shit. It's weird to be at a match now. Like, I follow you on whatever platform.
Right.
It's weird to be in my element. So I was outside of Gallinson's Guns hanging out with Tim, the owner. He's really good friends with an A-list celeb, pop star. Definitely someone you've heard of. I'm not going to name him because it's not my place.
I know who it is.
What's that?
I know who it is.
Does
he live where you live? Does he live where you live?
Yeah, he does.
Okay, I know who it is.
He shops there.
Yeah.
But it's not my place to say, right?
Right.
And he was just talking about how he was frustrated with Tim. Not with Tim, but he was talking with Tim how it was frustrating hanging out in front of the store, how nobody recognized him. Now, this guy's worth millions. He's like Beatles level famous. Like,
yep.
Like, there's no one more famous than him in at least the music world.
Right.
And while Tim and I were standing outside of his store in downtown Salt Lake on 200 South, like right downtown Salt Lake, you don't get more downtown than that. Some guy pulls up in his pickup truck and said, "Sean, I know you. I follow you on social media. Nice to finally meet you."
That's hilarious.
Well, he's telling me about this pop star who, if you look at it on the global scale, I'm nobody, right? Like,
right.
Nobody. And this guy comes up like, "I loved your video about," and he mentioned something specific. "It really helped me with A, B, and C." I didn't give a shit that I was more recognized out in front of this guy's store than some famous pop star who was standing outside of the same store in roughly the same spot complaining about not being recognized. Right. And then I was recognized in pretty much my element where I probably should be recognized if I were to ever be recognized anywhere, given current circumstances. But rather, it made my day. Absolutely made my day. And, my wife showed up not too many minutes later from work. This was just a month ago. And we proceeded to have a nice evening with Tim and his wife, because Tim's a good friend. And his wife were very close. It made my day that this guy, this stranger, came up and told me that he benefited from some piece of content that I'd obviously put a couple of hours into.
Right.
Hours that I could have spent elsewhere doing something else. And that it benefited him somehow and it helped him. So, I mean, how can people support me? Like, that's I don't want to say that's a shitty question, but like that would be a shitty request of me to say, hey, your listeners really could support me if they would just, what I mean?
No, I get that. I mean, maybe I didn't word the question properly. Like, I guess what gives you the most juice, you know what I mean? Like, and I experienced the same thing that you were just talking about. Like at the airport in San Diego, some guy tapped me on the shoulder, and mind you, like, I'm extremely anxious. I don't want to get on this plane. I'm like, dude, I do not want to fly to North Carolina right now.
Are you not a flying guy?
I'm a socially anxious kind of guy. So like, I don't like being in crowds. I don't like being trapped on a plane. I just don't, just social anxiety, And so I'm sitting there and this guy, random person taps me on the shoulder and I turn around and he's like, hey, you're the guy from the My Backstory podcast, huh? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'm on my way to selection right now. I've listened to every single one of your podcast episodes. Thank you so much for like the podcast that you do. And that feeling was such an awesome feeling. It immediately diminished all the anxiety that I had about getting on that plane. And it put juice in my tank. So if someone were to ask me what would make me feel supported, it would be that. Like, follow my page and like, comments, like it, like if you dig it, give me some feedback. I appreciate it. It makes me feel, it puts juice in my tank to know that like I'm making a difference in whatever community I'm serving,
Really, that's what gives me the most juice is I like people that hit me up with questions about actually shooting and and that's not to say that I hope that one of your listeners that wouldn't normally do it goes out of their way to ask me some random question about a gun or a piece of equipment or how to shoot better or faster or more accurate or whatever. But
right.
That's what does it for me. Like you and I, when we first met hanging out at Bar X with Luke,
yep.
And Alicia and the other people, we just we became, I think we had a connection and
for sure.
Like this guy's a good guy. Cool. I'd love to be on your podcast. And it was cool when you came down a month later, March 30th. I won't forget it. I know the date. I have an eidetic memory, so we talked. We were at my office. We were in that little conference room, the 19th hole, as they call it, and we did it. My office is right next to a PGA rated golf course, and so it's a nice little setting, and we did it, and it was a nice setup. I think it was a good icebreaker, but we at least touched some deep dark holes on backstories here in episode 2.
Yeah, man, for sure.
So
most definitely.
I mean, I wish it could be in person, but
no, it's awesome, man.
Got a high quality mic here.
That's right, man. That was my hesitation, is because I was so picky about the way I did the podcast that, number one, like, I wanted them all to be in person because I don't want to miss the opportunity to connect with another human. Like when you're in the same room with them, you can feel an energy. There's a synergy there. It's all good. But because I know you, I feel that with you while I'm talking to you. I feel super comfortable and it's good. with people that you're just meeting for the first time through a podcast, it's like when I'm talking to a computer, it might not be that same synergy as it would if we were in the same room together. So I was kind of nervous. I was hesitant. So, but at the same time, I was
I wish I
excited.
could be sharing this high west with you.
Well, dude, I've been sober, bro, for like 2 years, over 2 years. Quit, hung it up.
Were you sober when we met at Bar X?
Yeah, I wasn't drinking. I was watching you guys drink.
You were recently sober then.
I stopped. What year was
I guess
that?
it was a year ago. It hasn't been 2 years. It was a year ago.
Yeah. So I've been sober for a year or 2 years and like 4 months.
See, I started drinking about 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally 2 minutes before you and I started this podcast, I was texting with a friend like, no way, you had a Mormon upbringing too? I started drinking 4 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
And
no, it's cool. You know, I don't have any judgment about it. You know, like it was just a personal decision to be like, hey, man, like I want to do whatever I can to like just be a better human and remove things from my life that don't make me better or don't make me feel better. And so for me, like drinking was one of those things where it's like I wasn't a raging alcoholic. Yes, I've been to jail. I've done a lot of dumb shit as a result of being intoxicated. But 99% of the bad decisions I've made in my life were when I was intoxicated. And I was like, like, why do I need that? And I have too much to lose now. I'm a dad and, a husband. And it's like, if I'm drinking, I'm not a violent drunk, but like if someone's in a room and they get kind of crazy and I'm intoxicated, my judgment will maybe be a little off. I just don't want to risk it. I don't want to worry about how I'm getting home. So I just made the decision. And with that decision, I also made that I'm not going to be like the judgmental pricks that I had to deal with in the church. I'm like, oh, look at this person drinking. It's like, I'm not that guy. Like if you want to drink, totally cool. And I'm also not attached to
leave HK when I was hammered.
Yeah.
But it's been probably the best decision I made in my shooting career.
There you go. So it worked out.
Well, so B&T is started out as a components manufacturer. They're Swiss German as opposed to the Swiss French side, right? Swiss German manufacturer of small arms. They've got the Army subgun contract, the APC-9. If you're familiar, if you're not, it's a truly 21st century subgun. It's got a hydraulic buffer system. It's what a 21st century MP5 would be.
Right.
It's direct blowback, but it's got a hydraulic buffer system. The recoil management on that thing is insane. It's compatible with AR triggers, so competition-wise, I've been able to run that damn thing like a competition AR, but it's a sub gun, and it's nice, man. I don't know what else to say.
Right.
You shot an MP5?
I have not. No.
Oh. So the MP5 has a delayed. So
I know what it is, but I've never shot one.
So the mechanical love of the MP5, being a former member of the HK shooting team, is the delayed roller lock. So literally the bolt that goes back, it has these like wheels on the side of the bolt.
Yeah.
So when you shoot it, a little bit of the gas blows off, and then these wheels are on springs and they come in, and then the bolt goes back. And so you've got this like delay in felt recoil.
Right.
So it's been described as like a cushion that you'd feel, like the difference between driving a dune buggy on the Autobahn and driving a a BMW on the Autobahn.
Right.
So, like, whether you have shocks or no shocks, right?
Yeah.
So, this is your nice suspension system, but the drawback to that, in modern terms, is it's mechanically complicated. You've got wheels that are spring loaded.
Right.
And so when you're running something full auto all the time, shit wears out, right? Yeah. It's amazing until it's not. It's like a BMW.
Yep.
Literally. And so modern 21st century, you've got a B&T APC9. It's direct blowback like an Uzi. You shoot it, this bolt just goes straight back. Okay?
Yeah.
You've got a recoil spring, but at the back of the gun, there's this nice little rubber cushion with a hydraulic spring behind it to catch the bolt, in addition to the buffer spring.
Right.
So it's like this extra cushion. It's a hydraulic thing. And so it prevents muzzle rise. And so the gun, instead of like, if you imagine your prototypical gun bunny in a bikini in your 90s machine gun VHS, machine gun girls bikini videos that, you pay $50 from McGill's to get. Not that I did that, but I might have a dad that did. You have, instead of a gun where once it goes full auto, it starts rising. You got that prototypical flame coming out the front, and the muzzle starts just rising because it's going full auto, and the girl can't control it, and so she starts screaming, and it's sexy, and the boobs are jiggling and all that. The gun just goes back. It just goes straight back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what this is. But the APC stands for Advanced Police Carbine. They make it in every conceivable NATO round. 308, 45 ACP, 9mm, 223. And for fun, out of American consumer demand, they made it out of 10mm.
Oh, wow.
And they have lowers that are compatible with Glock magazines, not just their proprietary B&T magazines, and SIG P320 magazines for their pistol calibers.
Nice.
So their APC 10 only comes in compatibility with Glock magazines, and they just announced that at SHOT Show 2020. I should be receiving one in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I accidentally fired it full auto, even though it wasn't allowed at the SHOT Show demo range.
Yeah.
And it was kind of incredible.
Nice, dude.
Shooting it. National champion JJ Ricazza came and shot it in semi-auto, and he thought he was shooting a 9mm. That's the hydraulic buffer system. The hydraulic buffer system is so incredibly effective that the service life of these guns has surpassed 175 rounds without failure in the pre-test before getting the U.S. Army contract. And we don't know how long these guns last. 175,000 rounds.
It's a lot of fucking rounds.
A little bit.
Yeah.
They're truly the HK of the 21st century.
Yeah.
They make the stocks and the forearms and a lot of components for HK. They are the innovators of the 21st century that HK was in the 20th century. And I hope HK picks their shit up and does what they are good at doing.
Yeah.
Alicia and I are really good friends with the director of business development and sales at HK. His name's Nathan Sheath. He's a 3-gunner too. He shot the Fort Benning multi-gun match.
Yeah.
Did he shoot on the squad with the HK shooting team? No. He shot with the squad that had the 2 pro staff shooters from B&T, Sean and Alicia Burrows.
Nice.
Because
That's
he's
awesome.
friends. Did he pull out a few prototypes from his bag to show Sean and Alicia Burrows, who formerly were both on the HK shooting team, just to see what they would think? Yes.
Yeah.
Did we like it? Absolutely. Did we give our feedback? Absolutely. Am I going to tell you what they were? Of course not. Because, one, the NDA we've both signed, the 19-page NDA we both signed is still technically in effect. And 2, we're not assholes and we're not going to, like...
Would you ever consider going back? Or did you leave on bad terms?
No and no.
Yeah.
It was just time to move.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I love HK. People ask me all the time, did you sell all your stuff? Fuck no. I love my HK stuff. I love my pistols. I love my rifles.
Isn't your everyday carry an HK?
What's that?
Isn't your everyday carry an HK?
Huh?
Yeah.
I still carry a P30 with an LEM trigger.
Yeah.
Now, let me... Atlas is building me an everyday carry 2011.
Okay.
Let me explain why. It's the thumb safety and the thumb mag release.
Yep.
HK, I'm used to releasing my magazine with my trigger finger.
Yeah.
And it's literally taken me 6 months to untrain that shit after 5 to 7 years of training, releasing a mag with my trigger finger. And that's still just mocking that right there.
Yeah.
Feels natural.
Yeah.
Instead of doing it with my thumb.
Who else does? Is HK the only one that does it with a trigger finger release?
Walther has a few rounds or a few models.
Okay. Because most of the thumb, right? Like I know Glock is. Yeah.
It's kind of the standard.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to me to do it with the trigger finger, but now that I've trained it with the Atlas, I need the advantage of what Atlas does, at least in the competition realm. I would never consider going back.
Yeah.
Rick Holm of Lazy Wolf Guns does amazing trigger work on competition guns to make them competition worthy. As far as the SIG P320 X5, if you're familiar, he designed all that shit for their performance shop. He does all the action work on HKs. If you want to have your P320 done up or anything on your HK done, Lazy Wolf Guns, they're the only people to go to. Don't go to Gray Guns. But I will say that as far as guns designed from the ground up, Atlas, I mean, let me put it this way. Hard as hell. I met my contacts that I work with at Vortex at Hard as Hell 2016.
Yeah.
Adam Maxwell introduced me to Atlas Gunworks then. And I've said since then to anyone that asked, if you didn't shoot HK, what would you shoot? Atlas Gunworks.
Yeah.
And the second that I left Atlas Gunworks, or I'm sorry, that I left HK and signed on with B&T, I left HK before Alicia did. I was driving to the Wyoming Governor's match in August 2019. First week of August 7th or so, 8th, I guess. Date is skewed in my memory, but first week of August-ish, I was on the phone with the rep at Atlas negotiating terms, driving through rural Wyoming on my way to a match, which was the last match that I wore an HK jersey. So that's B&T makes superb rifles and sub guns, but they don't make pistols.
Yeah.
So that was one of the nice perks of shooting for HK was they make pistols and rifles, but they're combat weapons, right? I needed to modify both in order to be able to compete. That's no question. They're fantastic guns, but
I do what
I
you're
had
gonna
to
do.
modify them.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the best way, man, for people to connect with you, to get in touch with you? Is it through Instagram, DM?
Instagram DMs, for sure. Email hello@shangoboom.com if you don't want to DM me. And YouTube, I'm putting a lot of effort into YouTube. Probably one piece of content per week as opposed to the daily content from Instagram, but I'm paying attention to YouTube more.
So Shango Boom there too?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man.
If you just search Sean Burrows B&T or Sean Burrows Federal Ammo or Sean Burrows,
That'll come up.
Burrows HK, you can find me.
Cool, man. Well, dude, I'm really excited that we were able to bang out this podcast and get over the jitters of doing it remotely and kind of see how it turns out. I don't know how the audio is going to sound. I'm not going to know until I send it to the editor and then he does his magic and lets me know.
What can I do to help your podcast, man? Like, you don't want ad revenue, so.
No, it's not that I don't want to add revenue. It's that, like, when I first
I'm an ad man, so I don't know.
No, when I first started, I just felt like it was disingenuous for me to have ads on my podcast. But as I've grown, it makes sense to have ads on my podcast. You know what I mean? Especially things that are in alignment with what I'm doing or what I'm into or whatever.
Right. I mean, like, follow the My Backstory podcast and buy the new Jewel from your local gas station today. Right? Like, that doesn't make sense. I get it.
Right. Nah, so I'm totally open to advertisements. I'm open to anything at this time. Like, now that I've decided that corporate is not going to be the way I'm going to go, my wife and I are doing our own thing. My podcast is back up and running. I changed the name briefly and then went back to the original because the name change. Yeah, the name change, it seemed right at the moment when I did it. Like, spiritually, I was figuring some things out with myself and kind of was coming to terms with some things that I hadn't dealt with previously. And so it just felt like real for me in that moment. But after I changed, I felt like I had lost some traction with the foundation I had already built. And it made sense in my heart and my mind and everything else to go back to the original. Because it was my creation, you know, and like the Getting Real was more the recommendation of other people that I was around, you know, and it wasn't my creation.
It didn't feel like you, man.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Like my backstory. I'm glad I didn't do episode 2 on Getting Real. I'm glad I did episode 2 on I don't know, the return of my backstory.
Right. Yeah.
And look, branding and marketing is kind of it's my day job.
Yeah.
Is what I do. I get paid a lot of money, like stupid money, to be extremely candid about branding ideas.
Right.
Just like spur of the moment. I don't know if that slap on my damn head got picked up by the mic, but spur of the moment damn ideas like that come to my mind sitting in boardrooms with clients. Yeah. I get paid to think whatever comes to my mind first. Yeah. As a consultant in marketing. And I'll tell you, my backstory is the most genuine brand out of the two. And I'm glad I get to come back with the same brand.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it was, you know, sometimes, you know, you got to learn, you got to grow, you got to like.
But at the same time, I'm glad you have that journey, and I'm glad you're acknowledging it, and I'm glad it just gets to be the same damn thing. Don't erase it. Don't like delete it. Just let it be what it is. Just be raw, because that's like the spirit of this whole thing. You know what I mean?
Man. Yep. I dig it, brother.
I love that you went through that shit. Like it's kind of it makes like my backstory part of it cool.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming on, man, being willing to sit down and talk with me again. And as soon as, you know, time or whatever permits, I'll be driving up, you know, spend some time with you and the fam and training and doing all the things.
But off the record, like, get your ass up here and let's just train. Like, let's just come out here and train, okay?
I'm down. Let's do it, brother.
Like, no sales or no, like, sales pitch or nothing aside. I just want to put some race guns in your hand.
Yeah.
And show you what you can fucking do with some, like, equipment that I just want to show you what you are capable of.
Yep.
Where equipment can't be your excuse. And like, I think you'll like what you'll experience when you get some, I don't know what the word is, but forgive me, education. Because I know you've had some training. I know you're not like completely ignorant, like, right? But like from the competition side.
For sure.
You've been educated on the combat side, but when you're trained on how to race with the race guns, like how to just do it when no one's shooting back, and it's just like, here's some fucking targets, go get you some holes in some paper.
I'm down for it.
Like, you know, like, no one can hurt you. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah.
It's liberating, and it's a metaphor for life. Like, what would you do? Here's a closing thought for you, Josh. What would you do? What would you do if no one could hurt you? How much money could you make if you couldn't lose any money? How fast could you hit your fucking targets if no one was shooting back?
Right.
And that's why I like what I do.
I dig that.
And it's
a good metaphor for life too.
And that's literally like people say, like,
well, really? You're a professional shooter? Why are you still a marketing guy? Like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I'm a businessman because I approach it the same way I approach professional shooting. I go out there, and sometimes I fall flat on my ass. And sometimes I finish, and I'm like, yeah, I totally meant to do that. And sometimes I'm like, holy shit, I totally meant to do that. And I'm disappointed in myself because I accomplished exactly what I intended to do. And I was hoping that I could possibly surprise myself and do more. And all I did was exactly what I knew I could do.
Oh yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
I'd love to experience it, dude. So whenever, when all this stuff kind of calms down and I can get a schedule together, I'll drive out and we'll make it happen.
Utah has literally tested more people per 100,000 than any other state. They shut down Salt Lake County because it was a hot spot. I'm in Utah County. If you said, Sean, I'm coming out tomorrow, I'd make time for you. I
appreciate that.
Just
text me. I just got to get my with my schedule with my wife's our company, and then if we can find a weekend that works. We don't work on the weekends, so if find a weekend that works for you, man, we'll make it happen.
Well, let's close this podcast out and let's talk for a second.
All right, let me stop this, brother. Thanks again, dude.
Thank you for listening to My Backstory. Stay motivated and stay connected off the show. Follow at my_backstory_ to be a part of the journey to recovery and to see where your story goes. Or visit us online at hereismybackstory.com.